Just going slow. Next, we have our gifts to school totaling $500, with $100 going from Gordon College for the high school and $400 from Gakis Studios to Hannah Elementary School. Do I have a motion? Thank you. All those in favor? Vote passes. All right, next we have the grant acceptance. I've never done one of these. Ms. Puglisi, do you want to help me out with one of these?
Sure, absolutely. So I can give you a little bit of context about what this is, and then pretty similar to the rest of them. So what these are amendments in the final allocation for our FY26 title grants. So our title grants are some of our federal funding. And so basically what happens is the state, when they divvy up the pot at the beginning of the school year, they hold some aside for new and significantly expanding charter districts. And then once all that dust settles, they take whatever's left and they redistribute it to the other districts. So they're small and nominal amounts. These are in addition to the amount that the committee or the previously sitting committee had accepted back in September, October of earlier this year. So these are just small additional amounts. And so if the committee is interested in making a motion to accept these additional grant funds, which please do, then we can just carry forward that way.
Okay.
I make a motion to accept the grant funds. Oh,
Sorry.
Question?
Yeah, one question. Is there any burden to accepting grant funds? So do we have any requirements with the accepting of funds that we need to do anything differently or staff anything or anything?
So not with these, because these are just increases to our allocations. It doesn't come with any other sort of additional burden or commitment. A lot of our federal funds support programs that are already existing. So we'll actually, exciting news, we'll get to talk a little bit more tonight, both about like how we use our federal funds, some of our grant funds, and some of our other revolving funds. So all of our funds come with sort of prescribed situations in which we're allowed to use them, right? So our Title I helps educational achievement for low-income populations is sort of the task of that job of those funds. And so that is already work that we do every day in this district. And so they are not putting any additional burden. We're not opening any new programs that would then need to be sustainable down the road or something like that.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Second.
Okay, so it was
and Madam Chair, I'm sorry for being late.
not a problem. It happens. All righty. All those in favor of accepting these grants? Fantastic. Motion passes. And now we are on to the budget transfers.
Yes, so we just have one tonight. I always make it plural just in case, but only one. And so just a little bit of information. So every year we budget for contracted services for our special education transportation and contracted services for homeless student transportation. Our special education contracted services are really specifically for our students who are in out-of-district placements. And then similarly for our homeless students who might be residing outside of our city limits. The transportation that happens within Beverly, for Beverly students who live within the city who come to the Beverly Public Schools, we are able to accommodate that within our own internal transportation department. As we mentioned at the city council meeting or the joint committee meeting last week, the district has entered into a collaborative special education transportation contract. It was coordinated by the good folks at the North Shore Education Consortium, NEC, up the road, in which I believe 7 of the member districts are participating. And because it is the first year of the contract, we are sort of working through some of the kinks. It had been expected to be a more significant cost savings than we have actually realized. There's a couple of challenges. One place where we're seeing a little bit of challenge is that shorter, distant routes. So students who might reside in Beverly but then attend a program perhaps at Salem State, at like the Embark or SOAR program through the consortium there, those shorter routes used to be less expensive because they weren't being transported as far. The way that this contract was written is that it's every route has the same cost, and then it's cost shared by participating districts. And so both the fact that less of the member districts had enrolled in the program than potentially originally expected, and so therefore we have less ability to cost share with other districts who might have students going to the same location, as well as that sort of fixed route. And even the fixed route piece had more districts participated, we intended to see more cost savings. So we're just not quite seeing that yet. We're hoping that as they continue to sort of work through through the program, work out some of the kinks along the way, we should be able to see some additional cost savings, but where we are not seeing them quite yet this year, but we are seeing a savings in our homeless contracted transportation line due to a reduction in number of students identified as homeless requiring transportation outside of the city limits. We have the ability to transfer some of those funds to support those costs.
Yes.
Would you be able, if you determine that this contract doesn't work for you, do you have the ability to exit the contract?
So the
If it is not
contract,
financially
Yep.
positive for you?
yes, absolutely. So the contract is a 3-year contract. There is language in the contract that allows the district to go with another vendor if it is less expensive. Part of where the rub was a little bit this year is this was the first year of the contract. And so the onboarding of the contract and just sort of working through some of those administrative functions took longer than anticipated. And so we did not have costing information until right up against the start of the school year. And so there was not sufficient time to go out and rebid all of those routes to then be able to say, like, we could actually get something less expensive. And generally, we try not to change the transportation routes for these students. Once they get comfortable, once they know what the expected routine is, if sometimes things change and we, accommodate that as necessary, but also because we believe philosophically in sort of this endeavor, right? So one of the things that came out of the OIG's report for how to reduce transportation costs was to go into collaborative transportation purchasing agreements, right? And so sometimes we made the decision at the front end of this year that we were going to stick through it. We were going to help weather the storm and navigate through. And so we have internal discussions happening about what it'll look like for us next year, how we're going to go about if we're going to bid all of the routes and then make a decision depending on what that timing might look like. We're still deciding what the right path for us is, but there is an out option if we need one.
Ms. Robinson.
Thank you. Do we have any idea if our neighboring districts are saving any money?
No. And I say no in that no, they are not. Okay. So this is a shared experience. Not know that I don't have an idea, but know that this is a shared experience. And so I know that the superintendents who sit on the board at the collaborative together, this is something that really they are working collaboratively together to try to navigate because this is not a Beverly alone issue.
I'll offer that there is a strong degree of commitment. I believe last week I mentioned that both SEAM and SHORE collaboratives have similar programs that have been successful. And so, as Emma mentioned, some of the trials and tribulations of getting it off the ground being worked through, we're really hoping to see efficiencies in the out years, year 2, year 3, and hopefully beyond. There is also, I will say, something very reassuring of a central overseer of this when you consider drivers and companies and reports and, if there are challenges that challenge doesn't land on another district, that, it's kind of overseen throughout. So we're all hopeful, but, it is a operational and financial strain for the collaborative to be able to manage it. So they're working through those things. And we're looking for other districts to partner with and expand to try to move beyond the original 7 for hopefully the benefits.
Thanks.
Mr. Taylor?
Last question from me, Madam Chair, is I would wonder if, and maybe you already know this and are considering this, if the state has offered to those collaboratives any kind of reimbursement. I know you mentioned, Mr. Superintendent, that they had offered reimbursement to the regionals for transportation, which they apparently never came through with. But I wonder if they have offered that to you.
I'm unaware, but can find that out at our next board meeting on April 1st. This was negotiated prior to my becoming part of the Beverly Public Schools. And just for clarity, I believe that regional transportation is funded somewhere usually between 60 and 75%, but not the 100% that was promised when districts first were enticed to regionalize.
Alrighty. Everybody, nothing from
Microphone, Mike, you're going to get yelled at.
microphone.
We understand that we didn't save any money in this first year of the program?
We are not saving, we are beyond what we have spent last year. And again, we expect a reasonable amount of increase any year anyway in transportation costs. That's sort of reasonable. We are not, I would say that we are not seeing savings at this point in time based on sort of those per routes. The savings that we're seeing on some of those longer distance routes is really being offset by the greater costs of those shorter routes. Yeah.
But the amount of money that's being transferred, I assume this was not the anticipated increase. So if you didn't do anything, if you just sort of took it off on your own, didn't do any collaboration, would you be spending this money anyways?
I can't speak to that definitively in that we did not go out and rebid all of these routes. I do anticipate that at least some of these routes we would have seen less expensive routes on, especially to, there's also sort of the unintended consequence that I think is maybe difficult for me to capture in this, in that this contract did take a significant portion of this work for this region. And so there are other vendors who may be interested in providing a more attractive rate to regain some of that lost business.
Well, good. Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Well,
Okay. Well, why don't I make a motion while my microphone's on?
yeah.
Second.
Alrighty. I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor? All right, vote passes. Before we go on to the next one, I beg my pardon, Miss Emma, because I didn't realize I skipped over building and grounds. So would you like us to finish these and then go back to the buildings and grounds? We can finish items for approval and then backtrack?
We can go back to buildings and ground at whatever point you want. It's not a voting item, so I guess it's really more from the perspective if anybody had questions. I didn't have anything specific that I wanted to bring forward and mention, rather than just to sort of reiterate some of the points that were in the report. So I defer to you.
We can finish the voting items if you want and then go back.
Perfect.
I did notice that we had, each school had an item for repair as well, so we can do the important voting stuff, and then I guess we'll backtrack. So let me,
So the next item that's up is FY26 preschool paraprofessional positions. And so for those of you who were following along last budget season, we did reduce the number of paraprofessionals in our preschool program during the budget process. So last year we had 22 paraprofessionals in our preschool program. This year we have 17. Following the conclusion of the budget process, we had then also raised the preschool fee with the acknowledgement that in the event that reducing 5 para positions was more than the program could really sustain, that it would give us the opportunity to add back some of those positions through this additional revenue source. And so that's actually what I'm here to ask you to do. We are looking to add 2 additional paraprofessional positions funded through the preschool revolving fund to meet the needs of the currently anticipated population of students within the program. So if for anybody who's interested, our preschool program has age-based eligibility. You have to be 2.9 years old. And so because of the age-based eligibility threshold, we see our enrollment fluctuate throughout the course of the year. So we start the year not fully enrolled, and then during the 3 screenings that happen over the course of the school year, we enroll more students as we go through those sessions. And so in September, and the other thing, I refer to them as full-time equivalent students. That's because some students might participate in the program all 5 days. That would be sort of a full-time equivalent, but we also offer a 2-day and a 3-day program. And so students who attend 2 days, I would call them a 0.4 student. And if they attended 3 days, I'd call them a 0.6 student. And so we have 159 sort of slots. We have 159 little chairs that they can sit in, but sometimes our total number of students is greater because there might be some students that only attend 2 days and some students who attend 3 days. So just to sort of, just so we're all sharing the same vocabulary there. We've talked about our preschool program before, but the model requires that we're an integrated preschool as required by the state. And so we have both students with disabilities and peer model students. And the sort of number of students in each classroom is set by the state. So we follow all of those thresholds. So in most of our classrooms, in 10 out of our 11 classrooms, we have 15 students, 7 of whom have disabilities, 8 who are peer students, and then we have 1 substantially separate classroom, which is all students with disabilities.
Fantastic. We have to make the motion first to open it up, so I'll make the motion.
Second.
Hold on one second. We need a motion and a second first, and then we can open it up for a discussion, which is what I forgot to do on the last one. Robinson, you seconded it? Okay, so, okay.
Is the increase in paraprofessional due to state mandated sort of teacher ratios, like teacher to student ratios, or is it just our own decision based on the population of students?
Based on our own decision, based on the population of students, right? Every child has different needs. And so as, you know, we don't know who the students are who will be coming to us at 2.9 years old. And so different kids need different things. And so as we go through that screening process and we get to know what our new batch of kids are going to look like when they join us as sort of the enrollment after that screening process, we make decisions about how we're going to deploy our resources. And so we're just sort of at a point where we anticipate the needs of the students exceeding what we can accommodate within the staffing of the program right now. It's also worth mentioning that the staffing of the program does go beyond just the classroom teachers and the paraprofessionals. We have a BCBA assistant who works with the program as well. They have a program coordinator. We have a school nurse. So we have other things as well. But in sort of that in the classroom, sort of all the time piece of it, just sort of the evolving needs of the kiddos is really what's the driving factor. Well, the state does not prescribe staffing ratios for these programs in the same way that they do for like an EEC program or things like that.
Yes. Mr. Taylor, you had a question?
Well, I always like to, since our city council colleague is sitting here, we do have a $3.9 million deficit, and we don't, I'd like to know how are we funding this?
So we're funding this through the preschool revolving fund, which was increases that we made to tuition last year after the budget process had concluded specifically for this reason. So they will be funded through the preschool revolving fund through those increased tuitions.
Thank you.
Mr. Manso.
Do you have a number for the remainder of the budget here? Hit it. Do you have a number for what this is gonna cost for the remainder of the?
Yes,
fiscal
so
year?
we have about 55 school days left if they get hired next Monday, which seems like a very quick turnaround. I don't expect that, but if we pretended that they were going to get hired next Monday, we have 55 school days left. And so for the two positions, that's $19,226 in salaries. And then should both of them elect health insurance, depending on what they elected, it could range between $5,200 and $22,000, depending on what they elected for the 3 months left in the fiscal year. We have sufficient capacity within our health insurance budget right now to be able to absorb those fluctuations. We account for some changes in enrollment. So, and we have capacity within the revolving fund for the salaries.
Any other questions? Mr. Harley?
And this might be a little off topic, but can you expound on the insurance costs? Because the insurance costs could be more than this actually, the actual salaries of the individuals. Would love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yes. So part of that is because we offer very robust health insurance plans, and the city pays for 80% of the health insurance costs for any of our enrollees. So if an employee takes a family plan, it costs the district approximately $30,000 a year. If they take an individual plan, it costs us about $10,000 a year. And so for 2 employees for 3 months left, that's where that range could be. Yes. The health insurance is not cheap.
Anybody else? No? Okay. So we have a motion on the table for 2 fiscal year preschool paraprofessional positions. All those in favor? Okay. Up next, we have, for first reading, 3 policies.
Yes, so our first policy is
JP.
JP. So usually here, we just do 1 reading, so I'll defer to you if you want to do 2, but usually here, we've only done 1 reading. If we need to come back to it, we can always table it. We have not historically brought it back for a second reading, so I'll defer to you and to the committee.
I'm fine with just the 1 reading, and it just has that 1 track change on there, right? That 1 little
Yes.
sentence.
Yes, I can. And yes, so this is the one place, so the MASC standard policy puts that responsibility on the school committee. The Beverly Public Schools version delegates that responsibility to the superintendent or his designee.
Oh, yes, we have to make a motion and a second to open it up for discussion.
I make a motion for discussion, a motion for this policy.
Okay, and I'll second it. All right, Mr. Taylor, go ahead.
What does, for this same reason, there will be no formal, what do we mean by formal exchange of gifts between students in the classroom? Because, I mean, it's Valentine's Day, 4th graders give each other Valentines. What does formal mean?
Formal, in my opinion, would be that it is dictated by an educator, principal, or someone else in the district, that everybody is expected to bring in a Valentine or a this or a that at various points during the year, whereas your child might want to bring in a gift for their bestie's birthday or their school bestie because they don't really get to see them outside, which would be an informal. That's my interpretation of an on-the-spot read.
I'm going to call upon myself for a second. So is this for certain grades or it's going to be grade wide? Because
This is
I'm
district
telling you, I loved it when my kids, I'm mad my kids aren't in elementary school anymore. I love doing the whole Valentine's thing and the kids love it. That's like their favorite little thing. They bring home their shoebox, they decorate it, they get their Valentines, they go, okay, we got to decorate Taylor, Katrina, whatever. And they bring them to school and they're all happy and they come home with their little baggie full of stuff. Like,
But
I
I
wouldn't want to
don't,
vote
I
to
don't
take-
think this is getting rid of that.
Yeah.
What this
That's
is,
what it-
no, what they're saying is, no, what he said was, he said, you have to, you must participate. That's not what any of these are. What that is if you would like to bring a Valentine in for the class, here is the class list. It's not a requirement.
I thought it was saying it's discouraging it from doing it.
Discouraging formal. That's not formal.
It's saying
That is
discourage,
informal.
I'm going to disagree because it seems
That's not
to
the way I'm understanding the first line of it either.
from the way I'm reading it, the second sentence says very clearly, not only, it does not say discourage, it says for the same reason, there will be no formal exchange of gifts.
Formal. Formal is the teacher saying, or Mr. Cushing saying, you have to bring in a gift for your teacher for Christmas or for Hanukkah. You have to participate in changing Valentines. That is a formal request. An informal request is, you may, if you would like, bring in a gift for the teacher. You may exchange Valentines. Some kids may decide not to. If you're being punished by not doing it, or you are taking some type of grade markdown for not participating, that is a formal request. If you are doing it out of wanting and it doesn't affect anything other than your personal happiness, that is informal.
I might also offer that, right, the first mention of the policy is that because it might cause embarrassment among children, right? And so this is acknowledging that not every student is from the same background or demographic, and not every student has the same opportunity to be able to bring in Valentines or to participate in a gift exchange. And so, right, it's really taking a student-focused lens. And so while it may be within the purview of some families' abilities or students' abilities to be able to participate in something like that, and it could be like, oh, but you could just make it at home, right? You could just, but to acknowledge that as a committee, we would never want to put a child in any sort of situation that might cause them embarrassment. And so removing ourselves and our personal experiences from things that we might have found brought us joy or our students joy, but really acknowledging that if we're thinking about all children and every child, how can we move forward best for all of them?
Dr. Cushing.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I also wonder if, while the state ethics laws are for adults, I mean, you know, it's basically a gift under $10 doesn't even warrant a filing. Gifts of $10 to $49, they're, as those of us who have all taken the ethics training know, they're very formal rules and regulations. But if somebody comes and gives you a $10 gift card, like, or under, I should say, $9.99, you have to file a disclosure, if I remember correctly, but there is not a prohibition against that, similar to a class gift or something along those lines. And maybe we should view it in similar lights for student to student, but I mean, a lot of ethics laws do, regulations do cover this. I'm just trying to think of ways that, you know, that individual tchotchke, because, you know, we don't want to give candy anymore on Valentine's Day. So that individual tchotchke is probably worth, you know, pennies.
And Ms. Robinson.
thank you. I just wanted to agree with what Ms. Puglisi said. Like, I think we have to really read these in terms of like all children, not how we would do it. I think that's super important because it's Like, this is a bigger picture. It's definitely not about how we would do it. You know what I mean? I think it's really important to think about.
Mr. Taylor?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
We'll get you right after.
So what I'm worried about is just thinking, and maybe it's through my own lens, but if we say there will be no formal exchange of gifts between students in the classroom, what happens when it's Valentine's Day and I walk in and give a gift to you, but I don't give one to you? How does that make you feel?
Well, I don't think that that's what this is addressing. That's a completely different issue. This is just saying you can't force children to bring things in because of the embarrassment. That's why students will be discouraged from giving gifts to classroom teachers and other school personnel. Because of the embarrassment, there's no mandate. It probably should say maybe formal exchanges getting people confused, or you know what I mean? It's just the idea that you can't mandate it. So it's not saying whether Sheila's gonna feel bad or I'm gonna feel bad. It's more like, you know what I mean? That's a totally different issue altogether.
Right. Sorry, I have one question. This is not a new policy, correct? This has been adopted in 2018 and 2023. So, I mean, we've been still doing Valentine's and we haven't been going against this policy. So it's not a new policy.
Mr. Hartley?
Thank you. And on that note too, it's adopted from from other districts have the same or corresponding language in their policies as well.
Yes, so this is, right, so this is, again, very similar to the sort of template language provided by MASC. Every district gets to decide which of MASC's policies they choose to adopt, if they want to make their own, whatever that is. But this is a pretty standard one that you would see in any district. This is not one that is sourced by Beverly. So this is pretty standard language, yeah.
Okay, great. And then I have one other question, and it's actually more on the second paragraph, which, I guess, are there any solicitation of funds for charitable purposes that would be sort of approved by the superintendent, and should we be promoting, students to help fund charitable organizations in some way, or at least be open to allowing it in certain circumstances?
So we definitely do have the opportunities. So for instance, our high school has the Interact Club. I believe and there's other student groups that do charitable fundraising and then transmit those funds to other charitable organizations. So there is some opportunity for that. Again, I think it's really my interpretation of this language, for whatever it's worth, is really that we don't want there to be a perception that there is a financial responsibility on students, acknowledging that they might not be able to meet that obligation. And if they were, and so really just making sure that, right, because this is a public education and so it's provided, right, free of charge. And so making sure that there aren't sort of caveats that then make it feel like there is a price tag that comes with sort of that core curriculum, core education piece of it.
Anybody else? Had on the Valentine's Day part of it this year when my son was in for Valentine's, they did send a sheet home. If your child would like to participate, check his name off on the box and send it back, or it was through email or something like that. So only the kids that wanted to participate or the parents that wanted to participate, their names are the ones that came home on the little list for them to decorate their little boxes. So it was cute. It's the kids. Did anyone else have anything else to say? No? All right, so we all set to move forward on this one? It is 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, this is only the first reading. So what this is, it's the first reading to send it to the to the committee of the whole. And at the committee of the whole is where everyone discusses it again and votes on again for it to either pass or not pass, John. Okay, this is just the first reading. Alrighty. So everybody in favor to vote it, to get it to the next meeting? All right, next policy is KBE.
Yes.
This is the one that we had the 3 different versions of, right? Well, 2 in here
Yes.
that they saw, and then the one I asked you to.
And a party favor version. So, thank you. So I had shared our current version and the version from MASC that our policy was based on. However, this past August, MASC actually updated the policy in a way that's far more concise, that references parent and caregiver, where again, or parent and guardian, where we've been moving to caregiver language in our own policy guide. So we do, I wanted to share this with you, and I realize that it's coming to you late in that you have not had a chance to fully interpret this. And so as I had shared with our chair, this would either give you guys the opportunity to say that you wanted to table this policy for further consideration of this new language, or if we wanted to move forward as is. But again, acknowledging that neither myself nor you had this information prior to this afternoon. So just wanted to make sure I shared that with you before we moved forward.
So we have our version on here,
Yep.
and then what we thought was the newest version of MCAS on here, and this is what MCAS's newest one really is.
Yes.
And there's really not much of a difference.
So
A
it
little bit.
is a little bit more concise, which we always love a more concise policy. Less words tend to be better than more. And there's a little bit of language relative to the 501c3 status that I think is a little bit firmer, where it says shall obtain rather than shall endeavor to obtain. And we've had conversations both in this group as well as at the committee at large, where we've talked about sort of sharing and understanding with our parent and caregiver groups about what their obligations are, especially relative to maintaining their 501c3 status. So this policy, where it has a little bit of firmer language in the most updated version, might be desirable.
And this is similar to one that we already voted on, right? Because it's listing in there like the game's a chance.
So that is one of MASC's big thing. They have been adding that language to
Several.
all of the policies that talk about fundraising in capacity. So we've probably seen versions of this language at least 2 or 3 times in the time that we've sat together this year alone, as we have worked through those changes. For all of the reasons that we've talked about in the past, really emphasizing the fact that this is one of those pieces of law that people don't tend to know about. And we've talked here at length about all the different ways that has shown up in our school communities by virtue of not knowing what the rules might be. And so MASC has really made a push to sort of put it into all of the policies where it may be relevant, and including those cross-references to the legal references down below as well. Just to, again, make sure that we are reiterating over and over and over again to help make that clearer to those who it may impact.
So can I make a motion that we table this and take another look and wait to vote on it?
I just want to ask one question, and it's in all the versions that I've quickly perused. I was a little surprised that number 5 doesn't say state and federal law, only because sometimes Massachusetts has more stringent laws, especially with And I know why it's saying student genders here, I understand that. But if you look at Massachusetts language on non-discrimination, it is more comprehensive than at the federal level. So I don't know if now is the time or not, but at some point, I would recommend state and federal laws. I know it's not in MASC, any of these three versions, but it just stood out to me.
Hold on, I'm going to second to table, because we have to have a second on there, just so we can have it done.
Sorry, go ahead. I just have a question, just for clarity. So this I know is the whatever.
So we have two versions on here.
Yes,
Our
and then we
current
have
one,
ours. So
And then the one
we
that
are-
we thought was MASC's newest version,
Yep.
which says effective date
Yep.
2023.
Yep.
But then upon further investigation, Emma had found this one, which is actually the newest one. So I asked her to print these up and bring them tonight so that we could all peruse it.
Yep.
And then decide whether we wanted to table it and come back, since we realized that there is a newer version.
Yep, so my question is, when we say we approve or we're okay with sending the version to, is the version we're saying that we're approving is the BPS one, correct?
Yes, so if.
So we need to see if we want any of these changes added to the BPS.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes, so can I provide just a little bit more length to that? Yes, so anytime that we visit a policy, the sort of default is that we are going to accept as is to move forward unless we want to recommend changes. And so it might be that we want to recommend changes on whole. We want to adopt the new language on whole, strike all our old language. It might be that we want to weave those things together in a way that feels appropriate, but sort of the default is to continue to bring forward the BPS existing version, unless we make recommendations for changes at this table.
Thank you.
Mr. Taylor?
As the former BMS PTO treasurer, I have no idea, and you don't need to answer this now, why we are establishing a policy that makes us responsible, number 3, and you responsible for the 501c3 status. And I respect why you're stating it. But if their treasurers don't know that they need to have it, that's on them. That's not on you.
So my interpretation was not saying that we were responsible, that this was, again, putting them on alert, putting them on notice that they are responsible for maintaining a 501c3 and that they need to be able to make documentation of such available to the district, which is really more that the fact that you had it 7 years ago, but you have not maintained it would not be sufficient.
Mr. Manzo? Oh,
Thank you.
Mr. Mr. Harley right after.
So I got no problem pushing this forward to the full school committee, which is probably where it really needs to go anyways, with the one amendment of including the state and federal laws, as Dr. Cushing recommended. I mean, except for the thing about raffles and games, it's really just the second half of the existing policy. And so the descriptive portion of the policy is no longer there. The why we're doing this sort of thing is no longer there. And it strips it down to the 4 bullet points that we currently do have in our policy. So I'm okay with tabling it, but I think in a month, we're going to just push this forward to the regular school committee as is. So, or with that one amendment. So whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so the top portion of it, from the top line down to the first 4 bullet points are gone, right? And then the rest of the policy is just that second paragraph, and then the 4 bullet points that are there, plus the thing about the raffles.
So can I make an amendment to my motion to pass this forward with what Mr. Manzo just said?
You might be better off to withdraw.
That's what I
and
meant.
then- Yes,
Yes,
and then make a new one.
yeah, what she said.
And I will second it.
But I have another motion before we approve it.
If I could make a suggestion, so if you withdraw your motion, right, someone else would make a motion to replace our current policy with this new policy, right, and then we can talk about this policy.
Okay. All right, so I'd like
That'd be
to,
my suggestion.
I'd like to withdraw my motion.
Second.
I make a motion that we replace the current policy relations with parent booster organizations with the model from MASC, with
Second.
one amendment. Bullet point number 5 should read, must comply with state and federal law.
I'll second it. You have the amendment note, right? Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I just make a motion to change and be concurrent with all of our other policies and change parent to parent guardians to caregiver. And then in number 5, it just says all parent organizations, so make sure we capture that one too. Just caregivers. No parent at all. Oh, yeah, parent care. No, it's just caregiver, right?
I think we would probably just go with caregiver. So we can replace all instances of parent/guardian or parent alone with caregiver.
Yes,
Okay.
that's my motion, sorry.
What does it do to the title of the policy, however?
Yeah, but just-
I would defer to you, but it may be appropriate. I mean, where we've adopted that before, I think what is perhaps a little bit tricky is that I do still think colloquially we refer to them as PTOs and PTSOs, where the P does stand for
Teacher.
parent. And also where we acknowledge that the important adults in somebody's life might not be identified as their parent. And so I think either could be appropriate. And so I would defer. I would also acknowledge and maybe offer the fact that where MASC has gone through and really adopted parent/guardian, where we've adopted caregiver, they still left that as parent, perhaps because that is how those groups tend to be known.
Interesting. Mr. Hartley? and-
Oh. Yeah, I would, in looking at like all parent organizations, I guess the question would be, is it just parent, or is it kind of, should that definition be broader? I think caregivers is appropriate, but then also, should it be even broader than that? So even just all organizations, or all, I don't know the right term there, but it does feel a little restrictive in that sense, for the purpose of the policy.
Right. No, absolutely. And right, like, because again, if we look back to sort of the old version of the policy where they offer that sort of the why, right? And it's really about building those mutually beneficial relationships between the adults who care for our students and the schools who care for our students. And so a wordsmith, I am not. And so I would offer that I don't know what the right word for that might be. But also, I do think that at least having this conversation where we acknowledge that maybe it's parent, maybe it's caregiver, maybe it's parent, caregiver, but then also really, it's also, we include the boosters in there because again, those tend to be, school affiliated, mutually beneficial groups that are run by adults who care about our students similarly. But again, sort of offering that differentiation where these are not something like a scouts group, where again, I would offer, adults who care about our students are involved in those too. But these are really the ones that are sort of in mutual alignment with the school that have sort of an active role in our day-to-day school operations. And which sort of, are known as those PTOs and booster groups, and acknowledging that P does stand for parent. And whether that is the next wave that we, we choose to surf, and the next thing that we get on, band on board to change, we'll see where the time takes us.
Sorry, I just wanted to say, I understand your comment about taking out and just saying all organizations. My only comment back would be, this policy is particular about the booster organizations, where I'm sure that there's another policy for the sports organizations that say the same thing, and for the other organizations. So I think that what you're trying to accomplish by saying we need to cover all the organizations are probably done individually by policy.
Mr. Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just really want to reiterate that I feel very strongly that we are opening ourselves up to a lot of liability with number 3, that the school district will make, that the PTO will make, if you will make proof of such status available to school district administration. So working in tax, nonprofit tax, you lose your tax status, your 501c3, within 3 years. 3 years and 1 day. If you don't file the appropriate form, it's gone. So let's say that somebody makes a $100,000 donation, and that PTO has lost its tax status that day. And they look at this policy and they say, well, you, school district administration, you had the right to have their tax status proved to you. Did you act negligently? I don't know. But I have real reservations about number 3, about taking on the 501c3 issue.
I will just say that it was in that other policy that we approved last time. So, I mean, it's already in policies. But
Anybody else? I'm looking around. Nope. Alrighty, so we have,
Actually, sorry.
go ahead.
One other question, and this goes to the raffles and games of chance. Like, is there any burden on us as a school committee or school system to continually educate these organizations on raffles and games of chance and the laws that apply to that?
Dr. Fisher.
I can't speak to any formal requirement, but I meet monthly with the PTOs, and I have also established a plan to start meeting with the booster clubs. Those appear to be more in flux leadership-wise than the PTOs are, just given some things empirically. But my plan is to meet with the fall boosters in the spring, the winter boosters in the late summer, early fall, and the spring boosters in the November, December timeframe, so that we can have conversations, we can make clear to them the expectations, also make sure that our district expectations are at least made known, if not respected, and the chattels that are used to deliver information just won't be available to people who are not going to work with us. Which I know sounds harsh, but going to what Member Taylor was speaking of, I mean, independent organizations are very difficult for the district to exert will over, for lack of a better term. But the reality is that we want the organizations that work with our students to share the same values, beliefs, and vision that we as a district hold. And when those things diverge, we have to have conversations and open dialogue. I have not had a chance to meet with the booster clubs yet this year, but do plan a cycle of meetings.
One more go around now. All right, so we have a motion on the table and a second for the first reading to push this to the next meeting, to push this for the second reading at the committee of the whole. All those in favor? All righty. Yep, I saw that. Alrighty. Got an X on both of them. Right, up next is policy KHB. And that has a big track change.
It has a big track change. It is highlighted yellow, but it is actually not different than the language on the MASC. So I'm not sure why it's yellow, but I'm not sure if maybe the last time that was a track change, but it is the same language in both places. So this is really an unmodified version of the MASC policy that the district has adopted back in
This is
2016.
Just marked for review then.
Yes,
Okay.
unless somebody has recommended changes.
Alrighty. So I'll make the motion and I need a second so we can open it up for discussion. Thank you, Mr. Harley.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes, it's open for discussion. Mr. Taylor?
Would this prevent, like, publishing the yearbook, that kind of thing?
No.
Okay.
So again, it does not prevent any advertisement in student publications that are published by student organizations. So the yearbook club publishes the yearbook.
So is this the policy as stands today?
Yes.
Like, with unchanged, really?
Unchanged.
Okay, unchanged, but there's track changes in it.
Yes, so I'm not sure why it's yellow. It shouldn't be yellow. I think that might be a holdover from last time, but that is our policy unamended. And it is exactly the same as the current, most recent version of the MASC policy.
Great, thanks.
There wasn't.
And I just want to make sure that I'm understanding. So, like you said, it doesn't prevent, like in the yearbook, but what this would prevent is, say, people putting banners of their business along the softball field for fundraising or something like that. That would be prohibited based on this.
Yes, except that we have an exemption from the school committee to engage in advertising on our athletic fields and fences. That came before the previously sitting committee last spring. So we do have a waiver to this policy for that one instance.
So should that waiver be mentioned in this policy?
I don't know that it needs to be in that. So there are times to time where we will come forward and get permission from the committee to set aside a policy. The policy remains unchanged. Really, we just sort of hold aside a note that, like, under these circumstances, it is set aside. So unless you wanted to give us sort of indefinite approval to do that thing, I would probably not put it in the policy. And again, that allows the committee to retain control so that in the event that they feel like the advertising has gone a little bit too far, and now everything is papered in advertisements or whatever that might be, it gives the committee the opportunity to say, actually, we gave you a waiver. We want to talk about it again.
Okay. So then they
could rescind that permission.
rescind the waiver, but it doesn't affect the policy in any way.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Nobody else? This was a fast one. All right. All those in favor for the first reading? Fantastic.
All right.
All righty.
Do we want to go back to buildings and grounds real quick?
Go back to buildings and grounds real quick,
Perfect.
if you would like.
Yeah, absolutely. I just appreciate the opportunity every month to say thank you to our good friends at Buildings and Ground and all of the hard work we do. As they noted in their report, this was the toughest, roughest winter that we've had in a decade. And so I will take every opportunity to say thank you to them. Not only was it tough and rough on our staff, on our contractors, but also on our equipment. That's noted in there. We are very lucky to have very talented folks who work to repair our equipment. We are potentially also looking at some additional equipment expenses for some replacement of some of our snow blowers. We did lose a few, and they went down in the last storm. We didn't lose them. We know exactly where they are. We just lost their operational ability.
Or they could be under a mountain of snow somewhere.
But they'll melt soon. We'll find them. No, so they did go down, and so they've done some repairs internally. We've sent some out to get repaired, but there are some that are just sort of at the end of their useful life that we'll look to replace anyway. And then our good folks at B&G are keeping an eye as the snow melts, as things thaw, and to sort of repair the damage that occurs, right? The spring is the time where, signs that got knocked down by plows get put back up. If there's, potholes and damage from the plowing process, we repair those. And then we cross our fingers and hope our roofs are in good shape, because the spring is the time we find out if they're not. So if there was any more specific questions, I'm happy to defer them to John Coffey and the team at Buildings and Grounds. But again, I just wanted to make sure I took the opportunity to thank them again. They do a lot of hard work, and so they get their monthly shout out.
I do have a couple questions just on the marginal increase in expense due to the hard winter, just for kind of planning for future purposes. So like, how much additional depreciation and or machine replacement did we have, and how much additional overtime did we pay over the course of the winter with this number of storms?
Yep, so we are about $160,000 over budget related to snow, just for snow removal. So staff overtime and contract labor overtime in excess of the budget. So two things are true. So one thing is that snow and ice is one of the very few provisions in the tax law or in the municipal law where you can go over budget and you don't have to make it up within that year. If you really, really needed to, it could go on the tax recap as an exemption in the next year. And so there is sort of that permission there. So if there was one place I'm willing for us to be over, snow removal is the one, my friends. And also, if we were really, really needed to, I would also then go stand in front of our good friends at City Council and say, could we please find free cash to help us with this? Nobody could have predicted this. Well, I don't know about what the Farmer's Almanac was going to say, but I certainly didn't predict it. So there's that. And also, looking at sort of where our lines have fallen so far, some savings we've had in the fall, we anticipate we'll be able to cover it internally within our own budget. And we'll just sort of keep an eye to that. If it turns out that, knock on wood, the spring shows us that our roofs are not in amazing shape and we have additional expenditures there, sort of that compounding issue could create a pinch point down the road. But we also have a couple of other levers. We do have a building revolving fund that we do also sometimes use in the event that we have sort of extraordinary costs within our building facilities. That provides us another lever as well that we can pull.
Fantastic. Going down, oh, yes.
I don't expect you to know this off the top of your head, because this is just coming off the Building and Grounds report. At Beverly High, they did something called a BDA repair. So you can either take it back to the Buildings and Grounds folks and
Yep,
just for
if
clarity.
you wouldn't mind sending me that question via email, I will happily pass it along and I will get an answer for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Not a problem. Keeping the time in mind, going down, we have the grant and revolving fund overview.
We are going to go so fast. It's going to be amazing. Or we can always end and come back to it next time. Really, I bring this information forward because as we go through the budget process, we talk so much about, we talk about our state funding, we talk about the money, the city appropriated money, the local contribution, and I never want us to lose sight of the fact that actually the school department budget is so much more than that. We have funds through revolving funds, we have state and federal grants as well, and so you can see sort of how all of those things stack up. And so really in FY26, even though our appropriated budget is about $85 million, we're scheduled to spend about $115 million, all sources combined. And so I really just don't want people to lose sight of that. Our budget is so much more than just what our one line item in the city budget is. And so I think that's important. And so this is my opportunity to sort of get to talk about some of that. And so to that end, I have my all fund summary. I have a handout because that's an eye chart. And I like you all more than that. Thank you. So should you be interested? And so this is, these are our title grants. We talked a little bit about these before. Our Title I funds, again, is to help close the achievement gap between students. So how this shows up, our middle school is our Title I school. And so we use these funds to help support a number of positions, including some curriculum directors, our director of restorative practice, some adjustment counselors, some reading specialists. Title II supports professional development for teachers. Title III supports our English learners, and Title IV provides supplemental resources to provide access to high-quality educational experiences for all students. We also have our IDEA, or our 240 grant. That is our special education grant. It funds programs for special education students. We also have an early childhood education, special education grant. That those funds are specifically for eligible children's age 3, 4, 5. And then we have our Perkins grant, which supports career and technical education programs. An important thing to know when we talk about federal grants is that there's a sort of a test called supplement, not supplant. And so really these are funds that are supposed to add capacity within schools to do more. And so they have to be supplemental. They cannot supplant. We cannot say that we are going to spend these funds and therefore appropriate less money because we'll just make Title I pay for it. So that's an important caveat when we talk about these things, and sort of DESE's litmus test for that is if we paid for something with non-federal funds in the prior year, we can't use federal funds to pay for it in the current year. This is a quick overview of what our federal grant awards have looked like going back a few years. You can see they fluctuate a little bit. It's based on sort of the makeup of our students, the overall pot of money that the state gets. So even if things remain level funded at the federal level, our state might get a different share. And then again, depending on how populations shake out across the state, ours can vary there. Most of our federal grants have a 27th month allowable expenditure period, so we can carry forward some funds to help us over the summer. State grants very rarely show up in our budget process. They're really variable, and so they're minimally included, but here is a snapshot of some of the state grants that we have this year. Revolving funds, we'll talk about some more later tonight with Peter, but really just wanted to point out that revolving funds allow for specific purposes, and you can only spend for them for the activity or program that generated the revenues. So I could not say pay for a special education teacher salary out of our building revolving fund. If the funds were charged for building use, I can only use them to support facility and plant expenditures. And Massachusetts general law governs the administration of revolving funds, and so there's a fund chart there that the Department of Local Services hands out. So if you're interested, there's a link you can click. But I want to be super cognizant of the time, and I might defer to you, Chairperson Coelho, if you feel like we need to wrap it up.
Probably.
Okay,
And
so
next time
then
we'll go over through the.
this is a fabulous place to pause. This, just so everybody knows, the presentation will be posted online. So they always get posted. I'm always happy to answer any questions. Same goes for the revenue and expense reports that we didn't get to tonight. But also, Chairperson, if you so wish, I can bring back the second half of this presentation next time we meet. So you and I can connect on that, but just wanted to make sure that I made that people aware.
Outstanding. Fantastic. So keeping in mind with the time, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, the time, and I think we have to take a roll call, right? No, yes. John Taylor,
Yes.
Karen Robinson.
Yes.
Oh, why don't I think it's not written down here. Brian Harley,
Yes.
Paul Manzo,
Yes.
and Sheila Sudak.
Yes.
All right, all those in favor? The time is now 7:28, and we are adjourned.
Fantastic. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Beverly School Committee meeting of the whole. Today is Wednesday, March 25th, 2026. We do have a hybrid setup this evening, but no one is logged in, so I won't be reading all of that lovely stuff about keep on mute, and we're allowed to do it because the governor said so. Our first order of business is to call this meeting to order. And everybody who's going to be here is here in person, so we don't have to take roll call votes this evening. Let's see, I think we already picked 1, 2. That means we're up to number 3. I'm a math major. Ms. Coelho, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Sure. All right. Next order of business is approval of our meeting records from our February 25th Committee of the Whole meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Was that you, Ms. Cahill? Fantastic, thank you. And I should say that Mayor Cahill, and now I don't have to differentiate anymore this evening because Mayor Cahill is not with us this evening, has a conflict. Okay, so thank you, Ms. Cahill. And anybody have any comments, corrections, amendments to these meeting minutes? All right, I see none. All those in favor? Any opposed? That passes 8-0. Fantastic. Next item on the agenda is our superintendent report. And are you being your own Vanna?
I am.
Fantastic.
From the microphone, I am. All right. Good evening. Just give me 1 second.
So while he's setting up, I will remind everybody, this is a presentation by the superintendent, his own evaluation of kind of a mid-year. We're a little bit behind schedule. This had been on a previous agenda, and we tabled it. Later in the year, we will all have an opportunity to do an evaluation. And I'll also remind everybody that the things on which Dr. Cushing is presenting were voted and approved by the previous body. So the same will be true in the fall, in the end of this fiscal year, school year, when we go to evaluate him. We will be evaluating him based on the criteria that the previous board voted. And then we will all get a chance to vote on the criteria for the following year. And all of you should have received in your packets over a month ago now, the evidence that Dr. Cushing is partially going to present this evening that support his statement of how he thinks he's doing on his entry plan.
Thank you, President Visnick. Thank you, members of the committee, for allowing me to have this on the agenda in reality tonight and to move forward. So looking at this, 4 goals, 4 pillars of progress, really looking at my effective entry and direction setting. So really establishing a shared understanding of critical needs and improvement strategies, transition momentum. So when a new leader comes in, making sure that the existing momentum of the district doesn't alter, professional practice, really participating in the many sessions and coaching sessions with the new superintendent induction program. And then I added a 4th goal of safety and preparedness for deployment of the I Love You Guys standard response protocol and leadership of the district safety task force. So August through, have received a lot of input from the school committee, the previous body, as was mentioned on this. By the end of April, there'll be a report of findings as to the status of the district. Mentioned that to Councilor St. Hilaire last week. And then the impact is really building strategy, moving the district forward throughout the next couple of years. It won't be a strategic plan, but it'll be a strategy that will lead into strategic planning for next year, so the district can establish that 5-year longitudinal plan to really take a look at where we need to go. So I've conducted shared evidence of many 15-minute and 60-minute interviews for various stakeholders, offered 15 minutes to every single educator, paraprofessional, custodian, mechanics across the district, and anyone else. Met with our dispatcher, to teachers, to then hour-long interviews with people like the police chief, fire chief, members of the school committee, people running for election, and then also tried to find and carve out time for any individual who might do that. Honestly, I would say, in a way, probably to the detriment of actually planning for the start of the year, just the amount of people I was meeting with, only just trying to balance the amount of time. There was nothing detrimental about it because their voices are so critically important. So we've done, across the district, we have many Learning Walk teams visiting schools. We've specifically had Learning Walk teams at Ayers, Beverly Middle School, and Beverly High School that I've been a part of, and have also gone on many walks with principals across the district as part of instructional leadership and understanding what's actually happening in our classroom. So the goal setting, we established and met the deadlines by October 15th, so maintaining momentum during the transition. I'm currently ahead of schedule for a minimum of 3 visits to each school by late spring. And due to snow days and budget and other things, preparation, a little off target, and have met with principals and will be providing their mid-year evaluations coming up. But we've had a few reschedules, but overall on target. So this is really a dual role with the evaluator for goal 2. So really driving principal and district leadership growth, and looking toward their June 30th summative evaluation reports for principals and other district leaders, and really trying to establish feedback loops where critical feedback isn't seen as a negative, but is just seen as a way to continually improve practice as a school or district leader. The learner part is part of the new superintendent induction program. There are currently, we just added a member to our roles with an interim. There are currently across the Commonwealth 27 new superintendents for the current fiscal year. And there are conversations that the number of jobs posted for next year is about to be 30 for superintendents. So key milestones, that has 8 full-day sessions, and a minimum of 6 hours a month with the assigned coach, Cindy Tamor, who you've all met. Cindy, if you're watching, good to have a great night. She does tend to watch frequently. Strengthening personal capacity in strategy development, data analysis, and instructional leadership. The most important thing in leading a district with all of the challenges that district leaders face is maintaining focus on instructional leadership. Unfortunately, that is something that is difficult given the competing nature, but what's most important is what's happening in the classrooms with our students and how their learning is growing. So effective leadership really requires shepherding others' practice while simultaneously stewarding one's own learning and growth. All right, and so professional practice, the new superintendent, so investing, and then the district will get a return. And so really looking at the entry plan and actionable district deliverables that NISIP is helping to drive. Goal 4, district safety and preparedness initiative, really looking at how are we preparing our students and staff to be well prepared. This week we've had school drills at the middle school, Ayers, and I'm going to confuse either Cove or Centerville. So one of Cove, thank you. One of the C's. Right now, the leadership group is myself, school resource officers, and Erin Fitzpatrick, and we're talking about future expansion and bringing more people on board. One of the challenges with these groups is when you get so many people around a table, making sure the meetings are productive and not necessarily a waste of the chief of police, the chief of fire, the head of DPS's time. So making sure that we're talking about actionable items and things. Also making sure that we're aligning with the I Love You Guys standard response protocol. I shared specific documentation towards that. Still some work to do between now and the end of the year for scripts for phone calls and other things along those lines. Another contractually mandated topic is the health and safety team and focusing on reviewing and addressing specific health and safety concerns for employees. So that's the Beverly Teachers Association representatives. I believe they have 5 members or 6 members, and then the superintendent has 5 members as well. So really looking at the labor contract compliance and workplace safety standards, and making sure that we're moving from this idea of compliance to how do we make sure that it's a truly safe environment, we're prepared, we're ready, and parents, caregivers, and staff members understand what that means. So we've conducted systems audits by looking at what's happening. That was done by December 15th. We did summer leadership training that was deployed over the summer, and then have tabletop exercises. I believe that was shared as evidence as well. My favorite is the recess chaos. If you haven't read it, feel free. Then practical applications of fire drills executed. Superintendent, I went on walkthroughs with Jake Pike, John Coffey, and Mike Collins. If you don't know who those 3 people are, I'm sure everybody does, but they are incredibly important to this district and a shared resource across the city. They just bring an amazing wealth of resources, talent, and knowledge to the table, and the ability to manage our own security system that would cost upwards of $100,000 in annual expenditures for a service contract. That while we do pay some monitoring fees, these 3 are able to really help that cost savings. And then community communication with those templates that I mentioned. And then also we did a presentation that was, we had 150 registrations. We were so excited. But as we're all parents here and all have competing interests on a Thursday night, I don't think I was crashed by my 18-month-old in this meeting, but the reality is that we had just about 50 attendees, not including the presenters, myself, the 2 school resource officers, and Erin. And so I gave you artifacts related to that. The video is there if you did not participate. I've also shared that out in my weekly memo. The presentation was really developed, the bulk of it, by Erin Fitzpatrick. I really want to thank her for that. And then worked with, that's one of the things that's hardest as superintendent, is the delegation of responsibility and not being able to do it all yourself. But as Emma mentioned, in a $100+ million organization, you need to partner and build and work with others to make sure that happens. And so, there's an intersectionality that a single school visit, like I may go to a school and to observe classrooms, but similar today, as I was coming in through the gym entrance, there were some students who were doing nothing wrong. I want to be clear, but they were just kind of like fooling around a little bit. And they kept bumping open one of the doors. And so I just had a brief conversation and said, hey, you did nothing wrong, but just please be careful when you're standing near the doors that you're not accidentally hitting the crash bar. They were waiting to go outside, but just want to make sure that our perimeter is secure. So it's never about that. And, school visits, want to look at what our systematic and systemic practices are in the classrooms, a check-in with principals to evaluate their momentum and their challenges or things they're facing, as well as maintain momentum towards their goals. many times I'm with my coach, all right? So it's a NISIP opportunity, and then provides a venue for safety infrastructure, as every time I walk, I'm looking to make sure that, did a door close properly behind me? Did I hear that telltale click? Or is something blocking a camera? Or is there something that was left somewhere that it shouldn't be, that's a trip and fall hazard? Anything along those lines. So it's a real field work map. And so that really summarizes in about 11 slides the evidence that was provided to the committee, without boring everybody of calendar screenshots and other evidence that was submitted, but provided to the committee for your consideration as we move towards the June summative. And that, as they say.
And so you have two other things
I do.
underneath.
I didn't know if there was a pause for questions or anything, but I do also want to take a moment to congratulate one of our library media specialists in the district, Alex Wozniak, has reached retirement. And I just want to take a moment to say Alex and Barb had a really great sit-down conversation with them at the high school earlier this year, have so respected the work that Alex has done, and really appreciated that conversation and others that we've had throughout the year. And congratulations on your retirement. I hope you find so much joy and fun, and if it's travel, far and wide, if it's reading, may the books be far and wide as well. So congratulations.
Not that she's counting, but there's 2 more days, I asked earlier. All right, so next thing on our agenda is your FY27 budget update. And for those of you who just served on F&F, I'm going to apologize in advance because I think there's going to be some duplicative materials.
Just 1 second. So this was just working. You all saw our presentation up there. And now, it used to be called PEBCAC, which is problem exists between keyboard and share. Here we go. All right. Before I begin, I would like to say for all time to apologize to my 9-year-old daughter for not being able to be at her first ever and quite possibly last ever violin strings concert tonight in Ipswich. So I will hopefully be able to see it online. And while she was funny about being like, oh no, you don't have to come, I appreciate it. I just want to say, Madeline, I appreciate everything that you do on a daily basis to be you. And hopefully I can convince you to one day play it in front of me, because in 9 months of having it, haven't seen it once. But that's all right. We made sure it went with her every Wednesday. That's what I hope. Maybe I can convince her tomorrow night at the middle school's concert, I believe 6:30. Anyway.
Good advertising. Actually, I'm going to interrupt you for half a second and say, and quote unquote chide you, as I have encouraged everybody else at this table. I believe our families come first. And although we have a duty to serve our community, we have a duty to serve our families as well. And so I would hope that as we go forward, especially as we kind of inch near the end of the year, when there are going to be a whole bunch of activities, that each of you put your families first. And I ask only that you let your chair, if it's a subcommittee meeting or if it's a meeting of the whole, let me know. And as long as we have quorum, we'll go on. Of course, we'll miss you, but there are really special moments that happen, and I'm sad that you're missing that this evening. I would have totally told you to go
appreciate
and made Emma sit in your chair. So I'm sure that doesn't win me any friends with
Well,
Ms. Puglisi. However, it would win me friends with your 9-year-old, which is way more important to me. So,
Which, when you all get a chance to meet her, she is pretty amazing. Although the boss of the family is the now 19-month-old. All right, so my report of the superintendent tonight. I want to go back to the critical essential question is, how do we maintain and improve upon instructional practices and comprehensive student supports while operating within fiscal limits? So last week, I presented level services and what our team has identified as critical needs. We've gone back and we've looked at enrollment projections, fees, and offsets, because a $7.1 million number when financial forecasting for the entire city predicts revenues of about $5.7 million means that we have to, for lack of a better term, sharpen our pencils and figure out the ways that we might be able to achieve the best possible outcome. So this is going to be talking about enrollment-based reductions at points. I would not, I mean, cuts are cuts, but I wouldn't necessarily term these as cuts. This is the type of review every district should do annually based on enrollment. That doesn't mean that it is any less of an impact to the individual employees who may be affected by reductions. And I want to be clear, I'm someone who, as an educator, faced similar reductions. So, you know, I say this with all truth and meaning and heart, that I understand the difficulty that that poses for individuals. So again, our priorities, I'm not going to read through them all. I've read through them 3 or 4 times by now, but want to make sure that they're here and part of every presentation. Again, budget drivers. So we have certain contractual obligations, enrollment, student needs, special education increases, particularly for out-of-district costs. We talked last week about reconstitution of some out-of-district programs over and above OSD's approved increases, inflation and the rising costs of goods and services. As an example, a snowblower that was talked about in F&F costs more than it did 6 years ago, as an example. And then the availability of budget offsets. I want to thank Emma for her significant help in the construction of this presentation, and just the whole team approach that has gone into making and reviewing these decisions. So our current appropriation, all right, is $85 million for FY26. The FY27 level services budget is looking at $99,590,936. Offsets from grants and other revolving funds is $8.6 million. The enrollment-based adjustments that I'm speaking of this evening, as well as other fees and structures that we'll be putting forward this evening. Again, it's not a vote, but it is to make sure that the committee is sensitized and the community is sensitized. And then, so the level services appropriation is $90,446,211, which is a 5.47% increase. And then the critical budget requests bring that to a 6.63% increase over and above that 90 million, for a total of $91,343,041. This was presented at F&F. It gives an all-fund summary. As I'm slightly colorblind, it's a little difficult, but it does provide you that, I believe it's orange, of the local contribution from the city of Beverly, but then it provides you revolving funds that are specific to the essentially enterprise that is being done. The National School Lunch Program, state grants, federal grants, and the local as well as state education aid chapter 70. This is an all fund summary. Several members of the committee from FNF have this. This is an eye chart right now, but this will be shared out afterwards, and also can make sure everybody has paper copies as well moving forward. Federal grant awards, special thanks to Emma for providing this. You can see how those have grown over the last several years, but how they've also contracted in the last 2 years from a high water point of $2,564,000, and now this year at $2,440,000. We also are taking a moment to look at forecasted offsets from grants and revolving funds. That was that $8.6 million budget that I mentioned. Title I, Title II, a Department of Public Health grant that contributes to our nursing, some special education grants, and then revolving funds. All right. And again, as Emma mentioned in FNF, is that these funds have to be spent for the purpose with they were created. So as an example, athletics money can only be spent in athletics. And I'm just trying to remember, it's in the later slides, but as an example, we operate our athletics program that costs the district about $900,000 a year. We collect approximately $200,000 in user fees. All right, so that offsets the expense, and the district budgets for the remainder. All right, others, school nutrition, ROTC, and then the 0.5 BTA president salary for release time. All right, SEVIS is the student visa program under the federal government. If you would like to learn about that, just Google SEVIS and it'll bring you to a State Department page. But we do have a number of students who come into the district for either a full year or a semester-long experience. So the user fees that we charge presently is for athletics at $315 for football and ice hockey. We will be talking more about ice hockey later this evening and the costs associated therewith. Then athletics, the tier 2 sports are $260. Athletics tier 3 at $210. Athletics for middle school cross country, middle school spring track is $105. Preschool for 5 days for the peer student, we are mandated to operate an integrated preschool, peer modeling, and those peers for full fives pay $5,500. For 3 days, $3,300. And 2 days, $2,200. Transportation currently has a $315 fee with a family max of $630. That fee is for round trip. I believe that it is a cut in half for one way. And then non-resident tuition for SEVIS right now is $21,150. The need-based fee reduction available to students based on federal income poverty guidelines are listed below. And so transportation fee is waived for students who are identified eligible for free and reduced lunch. You'll know that Massachusetts provides, similar to, I think at this point, 10 other states, Massachusetts provides free lunch for all students across the Commonwealth, regardless of income. The program still operates under the free and reduced model, though, as in what the state is reimbursed for the federal government, and then the state picks up that delta. The state is not paying for 100% of it, but students are still are identified. We have a community eligibility provision that allows families to not have to fill out the paperwork anymore. I believe that lasts for 4 years, and I think we're in year 1 or year 2 of that. So we have either year 2. So we have 2 years remaining. And so that is, that allows direct certification for a number of positive benefits. So here's the revolving fund activity. So again, you can see across the top, circuit breaker for special education costs, school choice, we'll talk about that later, transportation receipts, facilities rentals, preschool tuition, athletics, special education tuition in, non-resident tuition, and the total for the revolving funds from FY25, our projections for 26 and 27, based on certain assumptions for increases. So, athletics. So for FY27, we're calculating a 10% increase for all sports across the board. And new rates would be $346.50 for tier 1, $286 or $231 for tiers 2 and 3. The ice hockey fee that I am proposing is $1,000. The rink costs are extraordinarily high. I know that an ice rink hour, which is 50 minutes, generally speaking, costs approximately, if you're going market rate, about $330 an hour right now. And so fielding 2 teams, this is something that I believe we need to do to maintain cost stability. We have not raised fees since fiscal year 13. And what I would propose is a modest increase annually to moving forward. That doesn't have to be discussed, but my suggestion would be so that we don't get in a point where last year Emma provided a really amazing graph that showed, in FY13 what it paid for, which I think was about 50%. And if I'm remembering from watching so many school committee meetings, it now pays for about 25%. All right. I would say that was an amazing presentation and highly recommend anyone to watch that as well. We have the fees paid here by other districts, family caps for you to consider. And then also increasing middle school per sport to $115.50 before the need-based. Okay, so I understand the hockey increase is a lot, but it is a costly sport to operate. We anticipate additional revenues to be collected in the neighborhood of $50,000. So school choice revolving fund. We will be bringing this, I think, in the first approval for school choice. Once you accept school choice students, they are ours forever, even if we decide in the future to not accept new school choice students. And it allows families to enroll their kids in the community that they so choose, if accepted. We have to hold a lottery if we have more kids than seats. And tuition is paid by the sending district to the receiving district. The rate has not increased in a very long time. I don't think it's ever increased, in all honesty. But districts receive $5,000 per student. All right. If there are special education costs associated with that, there are certain increments that can be charged back to a sending district by the receiving district.
Dr.
those
Cushing,
costs.
to be very clear, we don't set that rate. We have no control over that rate.
Correct. It's why I highlighted the 5,000, just to be very clear that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts sets that rate. Once we accept a child as school choice, all right, it is as if they live in Beverly. We cannot say you don't go here anymore. We can't pull the plug on them. They are a Panther for life, all right, which I think is a very valuable thing.
Right, and I'll just add, hold on one second, Mr. Taylor, and then I'll call on you. There has been 1 year in the relatively recent past that this body voted to not accept, although it couldn't have been that recent because I don't see a 0 up there. We had a very large kindergarten incoming class, and so we voted 0 kindergartners for the next year with school choice. So every year, we as a body get to vote on every single grade level, how many students to accept or not accept. That said, we can't, for instance, take Beverly High grade 10 and drop it back down to 15 because we've already accepted 20 students. Okay, so where we have some control is the incoming kindergartners, or if we have a grade that has not yet taken all their seats, we could lower to that number of seats. And so that's not in front of us this evening. That'll come forward, I think, early April. That might be our next meeting. I'm just really not even looking at a calendar right now. And so you'll see all the numbers and we'll get to vote on that in, I'm pretty sure, at our next meeting. Yes, Mr. Taylor.
Sorry to interrupt, Dr. Cushing, but there's a bill in front of the State House right now that talks about this very issue. And to bring it back to Beverly, if we're getting 5,000 and we know it costs us 20,000 to send a kid to Essex Tech, why wouldn't I, if I was John Taylor, living in Hamilton, Wenham, school choice into Beverly, and have Beverly own that cost, since I'm a Panther?
So, when a student is accepted to Essex Tech, all right, and they've actually done an exceptionally good job of posting their lottery on their website. So right now, 58 students from Beverly have been accepted to, they are Beverly residents, have been accepted next year for Essex Tech. If a student is school choicing to Beverly from Hamilton, let's just say, and they choose to apply for and are granted acceptance and then attend, the bill for that child goes to the town of Hamilton. The Hamilton student is not considered part of the Beverly catchment for Essex Tech. So as an example, myself and other superintendents worked to work with the Essex School Board earlier this year to make those more equitable. All right. Beverly has a minimum target of 51. 3 communities have not met their minimum target at this time. And so those have been reallocated throughout the lottery to the next 3 districts, which just happened to be Peabody, Danvers, and Beverly. All right. And so that's where the additional 7 students from Beverly were selected. It's 12 fewer than this current year of 70. The only reason why I say that is to just really drive home that $20,000+ cost is borne by the community that a child resides in, not the school that they apply from.
So the other thing I want to make very, very clear for our community members who are watching and for everybody on the body is that if I, John Taylor, who live in, let's say, Marblehead or Peabody or wherever, want a school choice in to Beverly, because we are a great district and we are a great school system, we have fantastic things going on, Marblehead only has to send $5,000 to Beverly,
Correct.
right, for me to go.
Unless you have special education increments
Right.
assigned to you.
And this bill in the State House is basically saying, wait a minute, we spend 20 grand educating a kid, or 18 grand here in Beverly, or whatever it is, and we're only getting 5 per kid? Can you just confirm if that is accurate?
It is
statement?
accurate.
Is accurate? Thank
It
you.
is accurate. Now, Emma.
I just want to offer that school choice is often thought of as like empty seats on a bus, right? So these are fixed costs, right? So these are seats that are available within our classrooms. We are not opening new classrooms to educate students that come through school choice, but rather we're offering them a desk in a classroom where the fixed costs are really the the $20,000 that it costs us, those are fixed costs. We're going to pay for the teacher in the front of the classroom. We're going to pay to have the lights on whether or not that student is there. And therefore, it's not to say that we are incurring an additional $20,000 worth of expense because that student is present.
Right, so next week, or next meeting, when we have this in front of us, we'll have my most favorite piece of data sheet, which is not this thing, although its font is a little bigger, but not much bigger. It's a sheet with yellow on it, and it shows for every school, every grade, what's the class size in that grade. And so we can expect that this year's first graders will roll up to second grade. All right, so you can kind of do your little shift on your own. And really, as I said, the most control that we have is in kindergarten, whether to accept 10 more children. And it's important to note that as the accepting district, we get to decide where to place those 10 children. So we could put 2 at each of our 5 elementary schools, and all of our schools have at least 2 kindergarten classrooms, which means we've increased the class size by exactly 1, or less than 1 if you had more than 2 sessions, more than 2 sections. Or sometimes we have schools that have a little lower enrollment, and we would maybe put, 4 or 5 students at a particular elementary school that had a lower enrollment, and spread them out. We get to control that. So if you get selected out of the lottery, you don't have a say in which one of the elementary schools we send your child to. And so you'll see hopefully all of that data in approximately 2 weeks when we vote on this. We'll also see how many people have taken of those numbers up there in the far right column, how many were filled this year. And therefore, if we could, if we wanted, if the body wanted to slide back, how much wiggle room do we have to slide back? If in fact not all of those seats are yet filled. If they're filled, let's say the 11th graders, they all get to come back for their senior year. We can't kick anybody out. Yes, Ms. Ducharme.
Can you, a couple slides ago when you were talking about athletics, you started that with, I think I caught 990 in cost, and then you provided the number that we actually receive so far before you started talking about your proposed numbers. Can you repeat that number for me?
Approximately $200,000.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. I think I said 900,000, but again, those are approximations just for conversation.
Yes, Ms. Robinson.
Can we just talk a little bit more about hockey?
Yeah, that's a great.
I guess just looking at that slide on I had to take a picture of it because it's too small for me. I guess I'd be concerned about like some of these school systems. They've merged with other schools as well. Like I know Hamilton Wenham doesn't have their own hockey team anymore, and I mean.
Our girls' team, just so you know, partners with Beverly.
Yes.
We are Beverly.
No,
Danvers and Ipswich.
Correct. But I mean, that's a concerning number to go up that much. I understand
Yeah,
what's happening here, but.
And I mean this with no disrespect to any hockey player or any member of the board or anyone who is facing like the affordability crisis, increasing costs. I don't know why I almost was flabbergasted and floored when I received and signed the bill for, I believe, $42,000 for ice time, just as an example. And I mean, if I may, not to bring personal into it, but my own daughter's mite hockey team costs $2,300 to play a similarly situated number of games and practices. So, I mean, the current rate and these numbers have been built to preserve educator jobs and to realize that we're never going to be able to 100% fee support our athletics programs or our clubs, our activities, that while not core to our mission, I would be hard pressed to argue that they're not core to our mission, if you get what I'm saying. And, you know, as an example, I mean, the Friday night light games that everyone loves, because of the setup of the facility, requires a heavy staffing presence because we don't have the fencing, we don't have the ticket booth, we don't have the various things, so those costs are higher as well. So just providing those as examples, you know, I know that number is high and it is concerning. I fully understand that. We're also facing the reality of, you know, the district was very fortunate to receive all but $187,000 or so last year from the city. And I don't know that that will continue. And it's unfortunate that, and I understand why this is not a criticism. I really don't want to be received as criticism, especially by my employers. But I understand why these fees and rates have not gone up over time. But it's something that we need to build in, say 3%, 4%, whatever it is, annual increase, so there isn't this shock to the system. I wish I had the dollars associated with it when you look at $900,000 and approximately $200,000 of receipts. And other districts across the Commonwealth, South Hadley in particular, from a direct conversation with that superintendent, if their override fails, athletics will be gone. And I don't say that as a threat. I say it as simply cities and towns are in exceptionally difficult positions with costs that are spiraling out of control, and finding ways to make sure that our core product and the ancillary, but also really important products, athletics, extracurriculars, clubs, activities, are still there in a robust fashion for our students. Especially, we've spent a tremendous amount of time as a district on attendance over the last several years. Sometimes it is those electives or extracurriculars that draw a student to school. Partnering with Express Yourself, or having, and I apologize, I'm blanking on the teacher's name here, Mr. Devon, who runs our intramural program here, all right? And so he needs more hands. He needs more help because he's built a really amazing and robust program. So I respect where you're coming from, I do. It's just the trade-off is trying to find more elsewhere.
All right, do you have follow-up, Ms. Robinson?
No, not right now.
Okay, Mr. Taylor?
I do agree with Ms. Robinson's viewpoint and concern that, and I understand where you're coming from, that for some children that the very reason they come to school is so that they can play a sport, and that if we make it if we make it an unaffordable option, that will become challenging for them, and they may not experience student achievement, which is why we're here. To that point, many families purchase gear for their sport much earlier than the season begins. How will you communicate an increase in such fees, since it's going to increase by almost 70% if you pursue a $1,000 rate?
Yeah. So I will be speaking about this in my memo this week. We'll be pushing it out through other channels as well, Facebook, for what it's worth. And as a USA Hockey certified coach and someone who believes in that sport, the sport itself presents natural barriers to entry on affordability, which is a problem that USA Hockey is trying to address. trust me, a 70% increase is dramatic and is difficult. I guess the only thing I have to offer is that if we don't do this, that we're going to have to find other resources or other avenues to close what I foresee is a sizable gap in the neighborhood of, let's just say, up to $2 million.
All right, so, Ms. Cahill, I saw your hand. Hold on a second. Ms. Ducharme, I saw your hand. I want to remind the committee members, one of the tools you have in your toolbox when it comes budget time, or any meeting, is the amendment process. So, life is full of trade-offs. If in fact you do not agree with this particular piece of the budget, then when it comes time to vote on the budget, you can bring forward an amendment to make a change to this particular part of the budget. That being said, Ms. Cahill.
That being said, I wonder if any other possibility has been explored, like if we have freshmen that have been playing hockey now, rather than prohibiting them from playing hockey in their sophomore year, could that increase be incrementally rather than you go from paying whatever it was to $1,000?
I think that is a great idea, except that it then causes further financial burden on the district for the upcoming fiscal year. So while in the long run, it will get where it needs to be, and I respect and understand that, for next year, it would reduce available resources to the district to offset the educator or other, reductions.
All right, I'm going to add in one more thing before I call on Ms. Ducharme, and then Ms. Frost, is your hand up? Okay, you're in the queue. The other thing I want to really emphasize is that although we do not have a specific line item for quote-unquote scholarships, we do have the fee structure that mimics, based on your availability, if we were actually making children qualify for free and reduced lunch, which we're not. If a child cannot afford to pay, if they qualify for one of the discounts, then they would get the discounted fee, regardless of what sport or what, or transport. No, I'm stopping there. Regardless of the sport. So keep that in mind. And Ms. Ducharme.
Thank you. I think your hand was up first. Do you mind if I keep just for this? Thank you. I want to make sure I understand the rationale. This is all really uncomfortable, and I'm sure it wasn't comfortable to propose and discuss either. I believe you focused on hockey because it is one of the more expensive sports. So it's costing the district proportionally more than the other sports. And that's why you're looking to use that mechanism to cover the proportionally higher cost. Is that correct?
Correct. And to be clear, if we were to take hockey's expenses with everything included, all right, the fees that we charge will still not come anywhere near covering the actual expenses of the sport. Nor would for any sport, because Emma, I think, did it last week. We would have to increase the fees by, I think, 350%. To cover half. So, I mean, it's really important that we have athletics, all right? European schools have abandoned that model, and it's all independent, as an example. You participate in a club sport. I'm not proposing that. I'm simply saying that it costs money. It's an important thing that we do. I said at an earlier meeting, to the consternation of some, that I don't like fees. I don't. There is a reality that we have to charge them. Like, there is. And I'm sitting here proposing them because the inverse of proposing these is other reductions that none of us want. And I want to be clear on that, is that this district is very thin to begin with.
Ms. Frost.
Sorry about that. So I understand the number. My question is, if we co-op with Ipswich and Danvers, would they also increase?
That's up to them. That's up to them.
them?
Well, we could,
We could.
but Emma,
So students pay the fee to their district, so they pay their district's user fee. We in turn, for our hockey collaborative group, we then in turn share that cost, a third, a third, a third.
Okay.
So we then bill back the district. That is their independent decision, what they choose to charge.
Okay, cool. So it is like equal. That's
yeah.
cool. Thank you.
All right, I'm looking around the table before we yes, Ms. Coelho.
I am not a sports person. My kids stopped playing baseball a while ago. So I'm not familiar with a lot of the fees, except that I've, only heard from a couple of parents, their kids stopped playing certain sports because they did apply for some of the scholarships and they were told they didn't get it because they made like something ridiculous, like $20 too much, or they were over the cap by like $50. They were on a fine line. We raised hockey by $1,000 to $1,000, which is plus $685 increase. What is the district going to do if the hockey team decides, or kids on the hockey team, the parents that pay for it, decide, no more hockey, buddy, you're not playing, and most of the team goes? Do we have a plan B?
Those would have to be conversations to work with the Hockey Booster Organization, parent groups, parents themselves, to figure out ways that we could support or find sponsorships, or to really try to figure out ways to make it happen.
Okay, I'll pile on to something you said, which is that it might be a useful exercise in our infinite free time to look at how many student athletes we have in a bullseye radius of the cutoffs, right? In general, means tested programs are difficult, right? They always create a cliff. There's always a spot of the cutoff. It rains on one side of the street and not on the other. It has to end somewhere. However, it would just be interesting to look at how many people applied and how close they were, and whether we could do some kind of gradation. That might make life a little better for some number of families. So we'll see if we can think about that, like I said, in our infinite free time. Okay, Dr. Cushing, you want to keep going?
Yep. So we spoke on school choice. Transportation revolving. So state regulations mandate that all students in grades K through 6 who live more than 2 miles from their neighborhood school or their middle school receive transportation for free. The district may also provide for those students who live less than 2 miles to school, and those students who are enrolled in grades 7 through 12, but there's no mandate to do so, right? The only legal requirements are K through 6, more than 2 miles, right? And we may charge for that optional transportation service. And so it's about 50% of the district who rides who qualifies for fees. We special thanks to Emma again for the area transportation fees that you can see. And so we're proposing a rider fee of $346.50, which is a 10% increase, anticipating revenues of $15,000 to help increase the offset to the transportation costs. All right. So the family cap would increase to $693 for an average increase of $31.50 before the application of any need-based fee reduction. Preschool revolving. So as I mentioned earlier, we offer an integrated preschool. Program can accommodate 79 students with disabilities and 80 peer students that serve as models. admission is granted on a rolling basis. We'll be talking about how that rolling admission, and as the year goes on, more kids age in. So we'll be requesting 2 instructional aid paraprofessionals later this evening. That was approved by FNF. And so there are screenings 3 times over the course of the year, and a student must be at least 2.9 years of age to enroll in the program. And so need-based tuition reduction is available for people who qualify. By law, tuition is only charged for students that the district is not required to provide the service under their IEP. So we've calculated budget offsets for this coming year at $7,500, which is a $2,000 increase per student before the application of need-based, and anticipating additional revenues of $100,000. Again, yes, so increasing from $5,500, all right, to $7,500. Okay. Looking at enrollments, looking at reducing attriting the assistant teacher for the deaf, a retirement for the technology support and integration specialist that they've found efficiencies that they're able to manage, looking at a school committee secretary that takes notes remotely, the reduction based on class sizes, I'll get into that in the next couple of slides here, reduction based on rising class sizes, so purely enrollment, of 2 fifth grade teachers, a teacher in the 4th grade at Hannah and Cove, and a Centerville 3rd grade teacher. Not replacing and moving to a classroom-based sets of a few iPads, but not going one-to-one with the iPads. This has currently been done in kindergarten and grade 1, which would save the district approximately $159,000. A currently vacant special education clerk, administrative assistant, and then looking at retirement savings. So, enrollment guidelines in fiscal year 2006, the school committee set recommended class guidelines at the following levels: kindergarten 22 per class, grades 1 and 2 25 per class, and grades 3 through 12 30 per class. The district and the school committee recognize small class sizes may be desirable in practice, and we've really worked to balance and actively look at those targets and work with them. And so kindergarten is 22, grades 3 through 8 is 25, and grade 9 through 12 is 25 to 30 per class. Preschool and some district level programs have enrollment targets set by state guidelines and regulations. All right. So, and projected class sizes in these programs can, in substantially separate programs, can look different. So here are some of those approximate enrollment numbers. As at Centerville, the current grade 2 enrollment is 51 students across 3 teachers. Presently, grade 3 has 4 teachers, so we'd reduce to 1 based on enrollment. The class size would be still approximately 17 to 1. Cove, grade 4, so grade 3 enrollment has 64 with 4 teachers, and reduced from 4 teachers. I apologize, that's a typo in there. Let me just fix it real quick. Nope, I was right. I was wrong. Sorry. Right, wrong, whatever it was. I need a vat of Diet. No, I'm just kidding. So reduced from 4 teachers to 3. The ratio would still be 21-1. Well, I don't want to say still, but Hannah grade 4, the current grade 3 enrollment is 59 with 3 teachers, and we reduced from 4 teachers to 3 teachers in grade 4. The ratio stays at 20-1. So we are all well under those enrollment targets as established by the committee. And Beverly Middle School reduced the 5th grade, which is still under the 25-1 ratio. So those are enrollment, as I mentioned at the start of this presentation, that any district should really look at annually. Again, you need
the
your
sheet.
binoculars,
That's the sheet.
but it is the sheet. Without the squiggly line for approximation. Here is the class size for the middle school. Retirement savings, we're planning on approximately $200,000 in retirement savings. It's really great to hire seasoned veteran teachers because they come with a lot of experience, skills, but in a budget crisis, you have to be more economically focused at times. There are certain positions that will come in under a column master's plus 15 step 6, and there might be some that need to come in over, but our target is to hire at master's step 15 step 6, which is 6 years of service to a district before they come in. 5 years of service because they'd be entering on step 6. So, and that salary for FY27 is $80,991. I think that still makes us very attractive to potential employees, and how they can grow within the salary tables, as you see posted there, is also very attractive.
Mr. Taylor, I saw your hand earlier.
I was going to ask you how you calculated the $200,000 in retirement savings, but
Yeah. And so it's taking this master's plus 15, so that's 15 credits of post-secondary, of post-collegiate, post-bachelor's, post-master's, I should say, experience. And that number of years experience, which is 5 years of experience in another district. And then balancing that off of educators who are retiring. So let's just say, for example, looking at this chart, a step 12 educator at master's plus 90 or CAGS 30 is retiring at 117,000. That's not going to work because that's next year's number, but we'll play it anyway. Is retiring at $117,135. If we bring them in for 81,000, there's 19 plus 17. There's a $36,000 savings. Oh, sorry.
Microphone.
I just want to mention that that is the correct number to use, because
Okay,
when
yes.
we roll forward our staffing, we roll forward all of our current staffing, we see where they will sit on next year's salary table. That's what the initial level service budget is built off of. As staff let us know that they're going to retire, we take what we budgeted for them and we subtract what we would budget for the new person at a master's 15 step 6, and that there makes the retirement savings.
And presently, we have 12 Unit A members who have made known their intention to retire. I don't anticipate that number will go up, but we did just recently have an unexpected retirement. So we went from, I believe, 11 to 12. But at this point of the year, I don't necessarily anticipate that number to increase. So we have currently 12 Unit A members who have dedicated a lot of their lives and passion to the Beverly Public Schools, and I'm extremely grateful for that, who are retiring.
Ms. Ducharme.
Actually, Dr. Cushing answered my question. Thank you.
not sure why I'm having a problem. Oh, it is the last slide, sorry. I had deleted 2 other slides that I had that are not consequential, but I was trying to summarize, and in my delirium earlier today, did not successfully do that. So I'm happy to take any questions. I know this is a lot of information. I will share this with the committee afterwards. I understand. I want to be very clear, all right? I know how much life costs right now. I get that. I hate talking about and being part of that affordability crunch. You know, as someone whose favorite sport and the sport that I have indoctrinated, thankfully, at least one of my daughters, and working on number 3. I missed it with number 2, cheerleader, which is great. Love it, love it. Those bows are amazing. But the reality is I never thought I'd be the person to propose a fee increase of that much of the sport that I love and have found so much joy in. I understand. I want to be clear. I understand that. The alternative is that we have to find it somewhere. And, you know, we're going to have to start looking at places beyond enrollment projections and beyond those types of naturally occurring savings that would hopefully go towards critical needs, right? But this is more towards filling what is, as you read in the paper, for cities and towns across the state. Lynn is cutting 70 positions. Triton cut 27. If the override fails to pass in Hamilton Wenham, is it 23 or 33? I forget. I don't. Okay. 26.6.
But who's counting?
Right.
It's a marathon number.
I simply say these, I present this in trying to preserve and, as best as possible, grow the Beverly Public Schools through these tough financial times. And if there is a benefactor who would like to endow the district $100 million, we are always happy to enter into conversations.
We could maybe use that to build our own ice rink and then have like an income source. I'm just thinking, you know.
Essex Tech did it.
All right, yes, Ms. Robinson.
I mean, can we look around for ice, or like, what did you say? How much is the,
In all honesty, it's the going rate. And
what's the going rate for the?
$300 something an hour.
you're looking about between $300 and $350 an hour. And, you know, the simple fact of the matter is that our boys team practices at 5 or 6 in the morning. Our girls team starts at 8:30 at night. We have teen drivers, and I, you know, don't necessarily want kids driving from Middleton or Hockeytown, which is a suspect facility, or Kasabuski, or any of the other number of rinks around. So that weighs into it as well. I agree.
Is this just for Endicott?
Yes. That's where we practice and host our games.
Right. And is this the first time hockey parents, if they're tuning in, are hearing about this? Okay, so,
Which I'm sure they're not tuning in, but they're going to find out as soon as my memo goes out.
yeah, I mean, it's just a lot. It's just a big, especially with like everything else being reasonable. So I hope we can have more of a conversation about this.
Oh, we definitely, I mean, we have to. We have to. It's just, I want to be clear without being disrespectful at all. And I probably shouldn't even say that because I'm not, but I want to be clear about what the alternative is. And so the alternative is a cut someplace else. So, you know, we don't have to increase the fee, right? But when we don't do that, that will cause a stress and a pressure somewhere else in the system that will pop out as whatever the cut is. That this body, rightfully so, will be equally unwilling or distasted will not have the appetite to do. Because when
We don't like to make cuts, right?
I get it. And I mean, like, in going through these exercises, what this has revealed is really how thin we are. Like, and I mean that sincerely. I gave the example last week of leadership positions, and we are a larger district than my previous district, yet have at least 14 or 15 fewer leadership roles across the district. All right? Or compare us with many other districts. And that's all. I've probably said too much.
Yes, Mr. Taylor.
Sorry. I think the tenor of Ms. Robinson's point is well made, that we do need to communicate when we're raising these fees, especially substantially. It's really helpful to communicate quickly and early, especially when parents might be engaging in some kind of obligation to purchase equipment, is super helpful. And your point is well made. If we're getting $5,000 from a sending district, and yet we're spending $18,000, granted in fixed costs, that's a $12,000, $13,000 delta right there that Beverly is eating. And so it's got to come from somewhere. Your point is well made, and Ms. Robinson's point is well made too, that we need to communicate to our parents early, as soon as we can, that this is going to be a significant burden for them.
And just to that, I mean, I've always found that it's the appropriate thing is to communicate first with the governing body as opposed to communicating with the public, and then the governing body says, why were we the last to know? So I agree that, while this is the first time, as a matter of, I guess, not parliamentary procedure, but parliamentary procedure, like this is the...
Right, this is our first conversation, and I think that, I would like to thank the administrative team, because we're still in March, and a lot of times we wouldn't be having these kind of more difficult conversations until April or possibly even May. So there is a lot more of the budget process that will happen, including a public hearing. And as I mentioned earlier, we all have tools in our toolbox, and amendments are one of the tools that you have at your disposal. So as we zoom forward over the next, we've got 8 weeks until we have to take the vote, a little less than 8 weeks until we have to vote on the budget. Pretty much every single meeting, we'll be talking at least some little piece of the budget. Then we'll all come together and we'll hear the public speak, and then we'll have to vote. Is your hand up, Ms. Frost? Yes, please. Yeah.
I apologize, I didn't write down quickly enough the fifth grade future ratio.
24.7 to 1,
Okay.
if my math was right.
Yep. And then I think, it's like Jeopardy, how do I pose this as a question? How are we going to be able to maintain a middle school model at the fifth grade level, losing 2 teachers?
We should be able to. Because of how the teams are set up in 2-person teams. So it would be the reduction of 1 team, but it would not. I just want to say, as a former middle school principal, the middle school model has been frequently bastardized and altered and changed. And you might find, I'll be honest, when I first started here, I didn't understand. Not even started here, when I was watching all the school committee meetings, I was baffled and befuddled by 2-person teams. It was completely foreign and unknown to me, because the teams I had worked with were 4 or 5-person teams, and really subject-driven, discipline-driven. So I think the model can change, but we should be able to maintain the model now. Yes.
So
Was that a daily double?
I'm gonna throw in some historical perspective, and then if you have a follow-up, you can follow up, and then I see your hand. So when the 5th graders were in the elementary schools, we had wildly different models across the different schools. And so depending on the enrollment, and I'll use my quote-unquote home school, in Centerville, any given year, we had 3 fifth grade homerooms, and the students rotated, so they had a 3-teacher team. But a bigger school, so Centerville's typically one of the smaller schools, right? Ayers had a 4-teacher team. Some schools did two sets of 2. It was just all over the place. And so it is true that occasionally here, and I think this is one of the years, we have 1 3-teacher team somewhere in 6th grade. And when we decided that last year, from a budget perspective, there was a lot of conversation, and Miss Oliver kind of had to stand here and listen to a bazillion questions from us about how do we know that from a transition point of view, we're going to put children in that grouping that can handle 3 transitions in a day instead of 1, or 2 transitions instead of 1, or whatever, right? Do the math. And so I think that, relatively speaking, we're much more consistent than we used to be. And, but again, that was a vote that we took last year to have that particular 3-teacher team, because it afforded us a position somewhere else to do something else. So you may have such a choice again this year. I don't know. We're not far enough in the budget process yet. Yes, Miss Emma in the back row.
Just for another piece of historic perspective, is that we added the 8th 2-person team to the 5th grade 2 years ago because of a bubble class, right? So we had a large cohort in what is now our current 6th grade 2 years ago come up to the 5th grade. And so we added those 2 positions then, knowing that it would be temporary, knowing that when the bubble burst and we were, or the wave crested and we were on the other side of it, that the intention was to reduce back down.
Okay, whose hand did I see?
Can I just say
Oh,
one thing?
wait. Ms. Frost, did you have a follow-up before I go to Dr. Cushing, before I go to Ms. Coelho, before I go to Ms. Robinson?
I'm still processing speed. I'm just absorbing learning.
Okay.
I'm not raising fees. What I'm doing is I'm presenting to you, the body, who have that ultimate authority. That's, I mean, and what I'm trying to also make sure is clear is that without those increases, short of Bauer or CCM sponsoring our hockey team, or Rip It cleats for softball, or whatever other product, and if you give me authorization to do that, we will work to do that type of work. But seeing as we approved the policy, or first read a policy on those types of things, you need to give me approval to do that. The reality is that if we don't do that, then this will happen. And I don't necessarily know what this is, because we've got to look at that over the next week or so, and where those cuts would come from.
Ms. Coelho?
I think I got half of my question answered, so I think the other half might be for Emma. Did you say the current 6th grade class is like a bubble class?
Yes.
So that 3-person team, is that going up to the 7th grade to help accommodate the class that's going up? Because I know some of the kids that are on that 3-person team are some of the SSP and special needs kids, as we talked earlier about that.
So I don't believe that intention, there's a different model at the 7th and 8th grade where it's a 5-person team, a math, an English, a civics, a science, and a world language teacher that makes up the team. So there's sort of like 5-person team on, like, so it's a different model. So no, the 3-person team isn't intending to follow them. It's really when it was those 2-person teams as opposed to the 4/5-person team at the 7th, 8th grade model that just, again, created class sizes that were above that 25 threshold.
So when that larger class goes up to the 7th grade, there won't be a need for that 3-person team, and we'll be able to.
So the 5th grade and
around?
the current 5th grade and 6th grade are decently close in size. And so we are continuing to monitor what that enrollment looks like throughout the year and as that might shift.
Okay.
Ms. Robinson.
Thank you.
Mr. Taylor, you're on, today's opening day, I think. So, Mr. Taylor, you're on deck.
So I just,
Now up to
Just-
bat. Mrs. Robinson.
I just think that, just a comment that I just think we just should be really careful about things that, like saying things that we added in the past, because if you ask any educator, we have vastly different academic and behavioral needs than we did ever before. And I just think it's super important to stay focused on the students who are in front of us now. And it's really just a comment that I think we all need to keep in mind is the needs that our kids have that can be very challenging. And if we keep changing our models, I think it's just a little concerning.
Step into the batter's box, please, Mr. Taylor.
Oh, thank you. Ms. Robinson and I are going to get along, because the thing I hate the most in my work is, well, we've always done it that way. So, ... So I think you're right there. What I wonder about, I don't know, and President Visnick, I'm looking for your direction. Are we making a decision tonight on fees? Or are they just being presented? No.
So here's your first hint. If there's no little asterisks on the agenda, then no, we're not voting. And maybe you need to go like this with it, okay? Because I have to put my glasses on to see that. But no, again, this is the beginning of the budget process. And so Dr. Cushing is saying this is the assumptions upon which he's going to build the rest of the budget. At some point in time, we will have the ability to vote on the budget, and every single item in it, you can bring, maybe I shouldn't say this, but anybody can bring as many amendments as they want. So it could be a long evening, and the way the amendment process works, so let's just roll one of these forward. As an example, somebody at the table says, I don't think we should raise the hockey fee by that much money. I want to say we're only going to raise it, total making this up, $500 instead of $1,000. Somebody seconds it, we have a discussion, the vote happens, we have two options. The vote passes, the vote doesn't pass. The vote doesn't pass, then that particular item just goes right on through, right? If the vote passes, then we probably have a ripple effect to take into account, because with the lower amount, then we would have less revenue. And given the less revenue, then something else has to change. Realistically, because we could say, oh, I'm going to make an amendment, I don't want to charge any fees. Okay, really, that's what I'd like to do. I would really like us to have no fees. And that has a ripple effect of then what happens to our revolving accounts, what happens to the revenues on the revenue side of the ledger, because the budget really is a ledger. We can, realistically, we can pass a budget to our city council friends with any amount in it. One might imagine that that's kicking the can down the road. And actually, technically, that's not really how it goes. It goes back to the mayor, and the mayor gives something to the city council. So there's been a lot of debates about that particular part of our charter and about how that part of the process works. However, we can decide what we want to send forward and what we want it to look like. And if it comes back to us, so let's just say for yucks, I saw close to 100 million on the screen earlier, right? Let's say we pass a budget that says I want 105. Let's go big or go home. It's baseball season. I can pretty much guarantee that's going to come back to us and say, we don't have 105. We as a city don't have 105 to give to you. This is how much it's coming back to you at, whether the mayor voted it, the city council voted it, would come back to us. Let's, again, just say, for the sake of this argument, 98. Then we have to figure out they have to figure out and present to us, okay, we passed a budget, we passed it at 105, it came back at 98. How are we going to make up that difference? Because all we have now with which to work is 98. And it'll be a process just like sorry, Kim, just like the original process. They're going to make suggestions. We have the amendment process. But at that point in time, we'll have a number. It's a number, and we need to get in under that number. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Ms. Frost is looking concerned, so I need to respect.
No, let me be concerned.
Okay, all right. Since I want to make sure that parents know about these numbers sooner rather than later, I don't know if we can vote on this tonight or not.
No. No, we cannot. However, you can go tell them, this is the budget process. They could be sitting here with, as I love to call her, Darian the librarian. All right, so last 2 nights with Alex in the audience. Actually, you don't have to not come anymore just because you're retiring. Oh, I'm planning on starting a Substack. Excellent. Nice. Okay. So, they could be here, they could be watching at home. You can encourage people to watch. This is the process. So it's not up for a vote this evening, but these, again, are the expectations upon which the budget is being built. It will come to a vote eventually. Speaking of that, there is an item with a little asterisk on it. Oh, Ms. Frost.
So I'm not sure if this is entirely appropriate or inappropriate. So most of you know that I pay the equivalent of 7 sports every year. And I can't believe I'm saying this. I just feel like I don't want to see the other sports increased, but I don't know, like, it just feels like there's a big difference between, what's going up for football and wrestling and, there and hockey. So that's my face. That's what's wrong with me. I don't have a hockey player. Thank goodness. That's too early, too cold. But that's just kind of what's eating me right now. And I don't want to spend more, like, I don't have a lot of money to spend, so I'm not like pumped, like, you know what, I'll give you an extra $800. But I'm just being, and I'm honest about what's giving me, a tummy ache right now.
And if I can be equally honest, as father of 3, who woefully underestimated what daycare costs would be before the 3rd one arrived, and even though I'm the head of an organization, and it's like things are tight, and I want to be clear that I get it. Like, I get it from a personal perspective. I get it from people that I associate with. I get it from family members. Like, I understand. And unfortunately, the alternative is, do I make the choice to cut? I'm not even going to say it. Fill in the blank. Like, fill in the blank. And I'm not going to say it because, like, but if not this, then what? And, like, until we begin a robust planned giving where people donate money to the schools when they pass on, or real estate, and you might look at me right now and you'll be like, you're out of your mind, but there's a reason why private schools do those types of things. There's a reason why other organizations do those types of things, because money is so scarce. And I want to be clear to the 4 or 5 people who are actually watching this right now, like, these are not things that I want to do. However, I have obligations in rank order of the core functionalities of the district, which are our academic and educational programs, and then everything else under that.
No, I feel like that I misspoke.
No, you're good. You're good.
No, then I was I just, like, I don't want to pay more for football, but I'd rather pay more for football.
okay.
I'd rather pay, I'd rather
Yep.
it be spread out, and I apologize.
No,
that
you're
I
good.
was
You're good.
unclear.
And
I just, I want to, that's why I'm feeling like, ugh, because I don't want one group.
yep, I understand.
When everything's going up, and I know yeah, I get it. I just, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but like, because if it wasn't for football and lacrosse, I don't know if one of my kids would go to school. So
Yeah,
it's
I get it.
very important to us. I would rather pay more to make it more, I don't want to say equitable or equal or fair, but just, you know what I mean? That's what I'm feeling right now.
Okay.
I'm going to get unpopular real quick.
I don't, so again, I think that, I'm a fan of saying, if this job were easy, more people would do it. And so, and it's easy to govern in a time of money. And it's difficult to govern when there's not free-flowing cash. It's easy to spend other people's money, right? So I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate the concern around the table, right? I think that everybody here either has or has had a child go through the program, and they understand the current economic situation. So I think it's fine. Our feelings are our feelings, and I think your feeling is actually pretty shared around this table. Ms. Ducharme and then Ms. Robinson.
I appreciate your comment, and I think that it's important that we have these kinds of conversations so that the public understands, because I think it's expected that we have these kinds of conversations, because we're all going to bring a different kind of rationale. Like, I'm thinking I'd rather see the more expensive sports, I think, pay a higher proportion of the overall cost. But I think these kinds of conversations are really important. And while I share with everybody else, that's a big number, that's a big difference. If we aren't together going to give Dr. Cushing a proposal of where we think the cuts should come from, then it's hard to say we don't like it without also offering a suggestion, right? So I think all we can do, since we don't have a suggestion, I don't have a suggestion of where to take the cuts if we don't increase the sports. I think at a minimum, what we can do is have these conversations transparently.
Ms. Robinson?
Yeah, and I was just going to pile onto that, the idea that it's not so much that the costs are going, it's that one cost is going up, not all of them. A lot. Like I think we just like to see, I'm not speaking for everybody, but the conversation what I'm hearing is, even if you don't have, like, whatever, we'd like to see the costs go up for everything, not just one sport take the brunt of it.
Right, so I think I'm also a fan of saying numbers we can find research that'll show you anything, including that eating ice cream for breakfast is good for you. That's my favorite research. And we can manipulate numbers. And so I would say to you that if we looked at these numbers, instead of looking at the price differential, if you looked at, is a given fee covering a given percentage of its activity, then it would feel much more equitable. Because we're looking at it from a cost differential point of view, it feels very inequitable. So absolutely, we can have more conversations about it.
So could we see those numbers?
That is a fantastic request. I'm sure in a subsequent meeting, we could see, because I think you had a whole bunch of them on the screen last Wednesday night, did you not?
So I shared like total cost. If you want to know like what is the cost for hockey versus what is the cost for sailing or what is the cost for, we can work on that, or tennis or what have you, right? We can work on that. I can absolutely work with the staff in the athletics department. Again, everybody already has a full-time job, but that is certainly not a small undertaking because we don't owe, no, it's a fair request. It's absolutely a fair request. I want to set a reasonable expectation in that we do not track all of our costs by the sport. right? So like my GL does not have a sub ledger for each one of those things. And so like some of these things are very easily tied, right? Like the ice rink cost is very easily tied and it's broken out. We have invoices for the girls hockey team. We have invoices for the boys hockey team. I would also then sort of beg the question of like, how would you appropriate or how would you apportion some of those, you know, overall costs? We have an athletics director, we have an athletic trainer, right? Would you allocate his salary again in the way where stat numbers can be manipulated in multiple directions, or not manipulated, but represented in different places, right? So then the question of, would you do it proportionate to the number of students who participate in each sport? Would you do it relative to how many, you know, just flat across the board, whether 2 kids participate or 40 students participate? There's a number of other things. Also, it would be a bit unfair to perhaps take into consideration like equipment replacement fees, knowing that we don't replace all equipment for all sports every year. Same with uniforms, right? And so in this one particular year, it might be that we're buying uniforms for one of our teams, but I wouldn't want to misrepresent and say, therefore, basketball is more expensive because we may have bought basketball uniforms or we needed basketball equipment in a given year. So we can look at things like field space. We could look at things like coaching staff, some of those a little bit more direct tangibles, but I would also want to offer the caveat that that is not a comprehensive picture for all of those reasons.
And I would just offer that cross-country runners are my favorites. Because no expenses other than the coach. Yes, Ms. Ducharme.
With full respect that it is a lot of work, and the example of the athletic coach was a great one, I do feel like the committee has a fiduciary responsibility to understand that. And so with gratitude and appreciation, I do think that's information that I would like to have.
Yes, and so as I mentioned, I did
No,
say
you
we are
did
happy
say-
to bring
you
it
said
forward.
yes. I just am trying to say, like, it's not just Member Robinson, and also thank you, because I recognize its work.
Ms. Lennox.
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate that. Thank you for those numbers. I think also the public, I think that would be really good for them to see. And also things like the ice hockey rink fee, I think that would be really important for parents to see exactly why we're talking about this, what that number is. And also, is there any way, I know you said that's kind of the standard fee, to work with Endicott to get that number down at all? I know they can be a good partner in Beverly with things, so I don't know, just a thought.
I will pile on here. As a educational institution, along with religious institutions, they are considered to be tax exempt. That is a federal law. They do make sizable payments in lieu of taxes. That money goes into the general bucket of the city's income. It does not come to us. I do think that they're pretty good partners. That said, they have a new president, and he's on my list of people to call. So maybe we can get a better deal. They have been really good community partners. I think the people in the farms might not believe that when it's move-in day, or move-out day for that matter. However, yeah, I think that that's a fantastic conversation to try to have. And a lot of conversation has been had about the pilots. The fact of the matter is, if you're tax exempt, you don't have to pay anything. And they have traditionally paid us a significant numbers of hundreds of thousands of dollars in lieu of taxes. So just, give a shout out to that, because it is sizable and it has been very welcome.
There are two just last pieces that I want to add. So I've only ever skated at Endicott once, and the quality of ice is impeccable. It is, really. It costs a substantial amount of money to the point where, as an example, a local private prep school that we practice at frequently for my daughter's youth team, they shut the rink off at a certain point because it is no longer profitable or break even to maintain it, and they drain the ice and get rid of it for batting cages or event space or whatever it is. Endicott, there are other, I'm not going to mention the organization, but there was Zamboni broke down on us and cost us a lot of money, and they're refusing to kick in any money for that, despite my calling and challenging them on that. So, and I've taken it as far as I can take it, unfortunately, for the, say, whatever money it is. But there are some operators, rink operators, who operate horrific spaces, all right, where the boards are warped or the ice literally has hills in it. Endicott's ice is really impeccable. The other thing, too, that I just want to touch on is that we are exceptionally fortunate, and I invite anyone to Google search Sharon Thanksgiving football injury for Sharon Public Schools. We are exceptionally fortunate to have on staff an athletic trainer. Many districts struggle to fill that position, and it's a health and safety risk for our student athletes, especially when thinking of concussions. Sharon, there are certain things, and the only reason I'm mentioning is because Emma mentioned it as one of those things that, goes across all sports, but is invaluable to have. So just want to make sure that that is expressly clear.
Yes, Mr. Taylor, this is like last call, because then we're going to go to the next item on the agenda, which requires a vote.
Mr. Taylor is going to be very quick. I'm going to echo and add one thing to your statement, Dr. Cushing, if I may. The University of Alabama actually has a hockey team. You wouldn't think about that in a southern state, but they practice 45 minutes away from their practice facilities, from their university, for their hockey team. So I think you're right to point out that Endicott is a great facility for our girls and boys varsity hockey team. And we should be appreciative of that we can utilize that and be mindful of that. Thank you.
Awesome. Dr. Cushing, you have one more item on your list.
I do, and thank you to Emma for sending me her slide from earlier this evening's F&F, so that I have a visual for everybody who can't read. By vision, not by sharing a window on another desktop. All right, I'm getting some weird stuff today. Let's try this again. I'm going to close out that. I'm going to close out this. All right, we're going to give it a try again. Again, PebCac. Here we go. I don't want to share. All right, so the preschool program, FY26 preschool paraprofessional positions, you'll remember that these were specifically called out for next year's budget as well, because we would maintain these through into next year's budget. So the preschool program has rolling admission based on age eligibility, 2.9 years. Obviously, kids each month approach that target. So at capacity, program holds 79 students with disabilities and 80 peers. Enrollment is 86 full-time equivalent students in September 2025, and in March we have grown by 34 students for the full-time equivalency, and anticipated April for 130. So the current staffing is 11 classrooms, 11 teachers, and 17 paraprofessionals. We are requesting 2 additional paraprofessionals funded through the preschool revolving fund to meet the needs of the currently anticipated population of students within the program. As Emma so eloquently mentioned during the F&F meeting, there is enough funding and resources in the revolving account to shoulder this additional cost.
All right, my committee members, I'm looking for a motion to add these 2 positions.
I make a motion to move add those 2 positions.
Thank you, Ms. Ducharme.
Second.
Who said that? Thank you, Ms. Lennox. Questions, comments, anybody? I'm going to do a little tap dance here for approximately 15 seconds. So that we can, I'm just
secretary.
delaying the vote until Member Robinson comes back. I don't want you to miss the vote. No, don't be. We're here all night long. Sometimes we have to take breaks. totally understandable, but I didn't want you to miss out on this incredible vote. So there, Ms. Ducharme made the first and Ms. Lennox made the second to add the 2 preschool paraprofessional positions. Do you have any questions before I call? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? That passes 8-0.
Thank you
You're
for your
off-
support,
You're
and
off
that's
the
my
hook
report.
there, boss. On my next item on the agenda is the school committee chair update. Our first thing is we have 2 policies coming forward this evening for a first reading, and I want to make a comment about one of the 2 of them. Policy letters G, B, K. I'm very happy that City Councilor Crowley left so that he can't make fun of me for not knowing the military letter things. George, Bob, Ken, how do you like that? Okay, those are so not the letters. This particular policy actually only applies to like a very small number of employees in our district, because most of our employees, in fact, are in a union, and their complaint and grievance process is covered by their CBAs. So I anticipate that maybe one of you eagle eyes would have read this policy and say, wait a minute. So just know that it applies to maybe like 2-3 employees at most, because 99% of our employees, in fact, are their grievance processes in their contract. So that's for the first reading. Second policy for a first reading is GCIA, all about a philosophy. You don't often get to hear the word philosophy in a school committee meeting. So we'll vote on those next meeting. They'll come forward for a second reading at our next meeting. Next item on my agenda is second readings of other policies that have come forward previously. First one is KHA. This policy came before us for a second reading, I think at our last meeting, and we tabled it collectively. We were not confident about whether it was actually being implemented or not. And so we tabled it, and Dr. Cushing and I had a meeting, and we took the action item to meet to talk about the implementation of not just this policy, but the batch of policies that are related to fundraising in our school district. And there is a batch of them. One of them is we're going to vote on in a minute. So I will not put words in your mouth, Dr. Cushing, but I will say that I am confident that the superintendent is working on a plan moving forward where he will meet with his administrators, including the athletic director, and then each of the respective administrators will have the responsibility of communicating with their staff and their PTOs. The fact that there are a series of fundraising policies that need to be adhered to. Yeah, I think that I will stop there, including policy JJE, which we're going to vote on in a minute, hopefully. So I bring forward now this policy KHA for a second reading, and I'm looking for a motion to approve this policy.
So moved.
Second.
Lindsay and Miss Robinson, Ducharme, Robinson. Any questions, comments? Yes, Miss Robinson.
Just the way that that's going to roll out, the conversation, what you just said, you had a conversation with Dr. Cushing. It would just because, I mean, some of our coaches they work in the building, some of our coaches don't. I just feel like it would be good that all the information comes from one place to all, like, that it gets from one place, not, I hope that this all gets spread out across like all the sports.
Would you like to speak to that, Dr. Cushing?
You know what I mean? Like,
I'm over my word limit for the night, but that's
I
the
think
plan.
I am too. I don't know.
It's all right. That's the plan, is that I'll be meeting with booster clubs. I'll be meeting with the athletic director, and, then I'll delegate to him to meet with coaches. But, there are certain preseason meetings that have to happen. So these will be,
Like, I guess I'm just like, maybe a slideshow that, like, this is the information that everybody needs to have. Just because having been a booster parent in multiple sports, things are run differently and you hear information differently. And it would just, if people can't attend something and there's a slideshow that just, here you go, this is what you need everybody needs to know. So that's all out there for everyone.
Yeah.
So I'm going to repeat something that I said earlier, not because this is the way we've always done it. However, somewhere in the past, we did have mandatory preseason meetings with the boosters, he meets with the PTOs monthly. And so where did we lose the communication? I'm not sure. But any given person is not following any given one of our policies relative to fundraising. I can't change that for instance, spring sports all just started. Fundraising is already taking place. However, we can plan for moving forward, how to make sure that communication goes out. And so I feel fairly confident that Dr. Cushing has a plan in place to, in his various things that he's already got set up and maybe going to put back on the table, this mandatory preseason meeting that was stood up somewhere in the past, I'm pretty sure, because we had problems like this. And then, what happens? We change principals, we change athletic directors, we change superintendents, and things get dropped. So I love that somebody brought this up and said, I'm not ready to vote on this because I don't think we're doing it. That is exactly what this body should be doing. So, looking around the table, there's a motion. Any more questions? All those in favor? That passes 8-0. Thank you. Next policy in front of us for a second reading and a vote this evening is KF, Community Use of School Facilities. I don't really have anything to say about this except that it is a piece of the process of the use of the facility. So there's a rental form, there's a fee structure. This is just the policy. Those other items exist separately. Looking for a motion to approve this policy.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Coelho. Thank you, Ms. Ducharme. Any comments, questions?
I have a question. Sorry. I have a question. So the liability piece just worries me, Dr. Cushing. That they'll sign an agreement exempting the City of Beverly and School Department from any liability claims. I can sign an agreement telling you that I will give you the sun and the moon, and I have a bridge in Brooklyn that I would love to give you because I own it. How are we going to protect ourselves?
I would like, my name's not Dr. Cushing. However, I would say that as a past renter of the facilities, it's actually I had to produce an insurance waiver. And there's, so in the other forms that are not part of this, it says you have to have an insurance waiver. It has to be this kind of a waiver. It has to be for this much money. It has to include your firstborn child. No, that's not. But it's pretty detailed.
Thank you very much.
All right, any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That passes 8-0. Fantastic. One more. Here we go. Our last policy for a second reading and a vote this evening is JJE, another fundraising, student fundraising activities. I kind of already spoke to this, so I'm looking for a motion to accept this policy.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Cahill. Thank you, Ms. Coelho. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Fantastic, that passes 8-0. The next item on my agenda is upcoming meetings and dates. Tomorrow there is an Operational Sustainability Committee meeting. Ms. Cahill has been so kind as to be the new representative to attend those meetings. They're run by Ms. Leal. You'll see probably the B&G guys in there, the transportation guy, the city's sustainability director, et cetera, and, yeah, it'll, and then at our next meeting, hopefully you'll bring forward a little report out about all the good things that are happening green in our community. I know a lot of you spoke at our last meeting about attending PTO meetings. I really highly recommend that you share back to your PTOs. For those of you who go to PTO meetings, at your next PTO meeting, please remind the PTOs that we are in the year of Beverly 400. It is our birthday. And as part of Beverly 400, there is money available for the PTOs to build a float to put in this year's Santa Parade. That's what it's called, right? The Santa Parade? Is it not called the Santa Parade? Holiday Parade? Okay, whatever. Okay, there's a parade in November after Thanksgiving. And Bev 400 would really like to have a little friendly competition and to have the elementary schools put in a float for that parade, and they've made some monies available for that purpose. Now, what I would say to you is the current third graders who are going to rise up and be next year's fourth graders, they probably want to have a meeting or two this year and talk about that and make a plan, because nobody's coming onto campus in September and making a float by November, realistically. Even if we give you a whole bunch of money, right? So in the very least, one of the things that might be a barrier to somebody having a float is having a trailer. And so Bev 400 has asked to pass along this little note. If you are if you're an elementary PTO or the middle school, if they want one too, you want to build a float and you don't have a trailer, they will help you. They have some connections with some companies that probably would help with the donation of a trailer to make the floats possible. Okay, so we'd love to see some elementary school competition going on right there. Yes, Mr. Taylor, and then Ms. Ducharme.
Who would they contact?
Right now, probably me.
Okay.
Yes, Ms. Ducharme.
I spent some time collecting the email addresses for the respective PTOs to try to gather the meeting dates. I'm happy to email them to let them know to reach out to you. And of course, we can repeat it at the meetings, but I have the
Sure.
emails.
And then again, as you're out and about, spread the good word. Okay. Okay, so here we go. I now move that for us to meet in executive session pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, for the following purpose. Number 7. Purpose 7, to review and approve executive session meeting minutes from the following executive sessions, February 4th and March 11th, and to not return to open session. Do I have a second?
Second.
Was that you, Ms. Robinson? Yes. Thank you. That requires a roll call. Ms. Cahill? Yes. Ms. Coelho?
Yes.
Ms. Ducharme?
Yes.
Ms. Frost? Yes. Ms. Lennox?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Myself. It is 9:37. We're going in at 9:37. 2 sets of meeting minutes.